Number 10. Mockingbird. This wasn't a weird pairing because it was so much really bad or anything, it was just more weird because it was pretty random. Although these two had some fun moments, most fans felt that there just wasn't much staying power between them. Also, Spider-Man is a major jokester, and Mockingbird seemed to actively dislike laughing at Peter's jokes. She's pretty no nonsense. The nice thing is that Peter didn't have to worry about Bobby when it came to her being strong, independent, and being able to take on any baddies who might come her way because of her attachment to Spider-Man. In the end, however, everyone kind of felt the relationship was more of a placeholder, something for now but not for forever, as these two both had much more memorable and well-suited pairings when it came to the world of comics matchmaking. And there's also that weird thing of, they don't really have much in common besides their work, so there's that. Number 9. Mary Jane Watson. I know, how could Mary Jane make the list again, you might wonder? You're like, Amanda, really, Mary Jane? Which Spider-Man is she paired with now that's so weird, you wonder? Well, once again, I am not talking about her relationship with Peter Parker, although if we really wanted to explore some of their alternate relationships from alternate Earths and some specific moments in their relationship, there are a few times that even those two have been weird together. But no, this time around we are talking about Mary Jane Watson and Spider-Woman Jessica Drew. When did this happen? Where did this happen? In the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610. The two weren't ever officially together, but Jessica definitely had feelings for MJ as she shared the memories, thoughts, and emotions even of Peter Parker, who she was a clone of. Yeah, in Ultimates, Jessica Drew has a different origin story, and like Ben or Kane are on Earth 616, she herself is also a clone of Peter, just a female clone, who was created by Dr. Curt Connors and Dr. Otto Octavius for the CIA and FBI. The weird thing was less that Jessica was attracted to MJ, and more that she was attracted to her because of Peter's memories. None of her memories were her own, because that's how cloning works in this reality apparently. And before we move on to our next spot, just a quick reminder to give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already and if you're enjoying it. Because yeah, weird things deserve likes, I think. Number 8. Carly Cooper. Carly ended up basically hating Spider-Man after being in a relationship with him, which was pretty unfortunate considering that she was a fan favorite when it came to her relationship with Peter. Carly was very patient with Peter initially and didn't even seem to mind when Peter would kinda zone out when they were together and not even notice when she left a gathering early, which is pretty awkward. She worked as a forensic specialist for the New York Police Department, so they seemed like a logical match. Both were brainy and involved in the fight for justice. However, when Peter Parker revealed that he was Spider-Man, Carly found herself unable to continue their relationship and the two broke up. However, Carly would still be haunted by this revelation and secret, which she fought very hard to protect. It eventually caused her to move away from New York for a time after a traumatic event where she found herself exposed to the Goblin formula and transformed, being given the name Monster and recruited into the Goblin King's Goblin Army. Carly was later cured, but this experience would definitely stay with her. Number 7. Ultimate Katie Bishop. This weird romance belongs to the Spider-Man known as Miles Morales. What's the deal with this relationship? Well, in the Ultimate Universe of 1610, Kate Bishop is not like the one we have in Earth 616. She isn't Hawkeye's apprentice, nor does she become Hawkeye in this reality. Instead, we learn she is dating Miles Morales and is just a normal student. Or so it seems. In reality, her parents are Hydra agents who sedate Miles when he visits and then kidnap him and experiment on him, alongside Dr. Doom. Ultimate Dr. Doom. Fortunately, he does manage to escape and of course decides to break up with Katie before leaving. Gotta love those extreme ultimate romances. So weird. I also like that Miles was like, yeah, so you guys kidnapped me and experimented on me, so I think I'm just gonna break up? I think I'm just gonna break up with you, but this was weird. Thanks. It's like a weird way to end your relationship. Number 6. Jackpot. With Jackpot, it's all pretty confusing because we have Sarah Earhart, the real superpowered Jackpot, and Alana Jobson, who is posing as Jackpot and uses drugs to give herself powers so she can become a hero. Here we are mostly talking about Alana Jobson. Alana Jobson, who is posing as Jackpot. While Alana herself is implied as being attracted to Sarah, when posing as Jackpot and fighting alongside Spider-Man, he initially thinks that she might be his ex-girlfriend Mary Jane. The two of them have a few flirty moments while fighting together. Jackpot even calls him Tiger, considering the name of her character is obviously meant to be a play on Mary Jane's famous catchphrase, "You just hit the jackpot, Tiger." This is also what compels Spider-Man to want to learn more about the new superhero. In reality, Alana Jobson is paying Sarah to use her superhero identity and registration papers, because she just really wants to be a hero. She ends up dying as a result of this desire when the superpower-inducing drugs and hormones she uses together end up killing her when mixed with a blindness serum, despite Spider-Man successfully giving her the antidote to said serum. This romance never really goes anywhere, it just ends in tragedy. Number 6. Emma Frost. This one is pretty strange, but it's also coming at us from an alternate reality, so you know, you kinda just gotta go with it. I think what really shocked me about it though is that Kitty Pryde and Peter Parker were also known to date in the Ultimate Universe, and so I've always kind of thought of Kitty as being, you know, quite younger than Emma, and that was the thing that made me go like, wait, what? So how old? What's happening? So I was just confused in general by that logic, although this is comics, so while in some realities characters may have a greater age gap, in others they may actually be the exact same age, closing that gap completely. And in this comic, that is what is happening. In Marvel Adventures Spider-Man, which takes place in the alternate reality of Earth 20051, both Emma Frost and her BFF Chat Sandoval had a crush on Spidey, and Emma Frost is the same age as him here, so it's not weird. It's a little weird, but it's not weird. Emma, being a telepath, used her powers to uncover his secret identity, and she causes a bit of trouble when Chad and Peter start dating. Eventually, her trickery, however, is exposed, and she's forced to face the consequences of her actions. Here, Emma Frost is known by the codename Silencer, and ends up becoming an ally to both Chat and Spider-Man later on. Number 4. Black Widow. The strange thing is, while this happened in Marvel Team Up issue number 82 as a quick little thing, when Black Widow loses her memory temporarily, it also has been a comic ship in an alternate world where there is an amalgam alternate version of Black Widow who is basically a blend of both Black Widow and Black Cat, which yes, is one of the coolest alternates for both Black Cat and Black Widow. I know, it's pretty great. The issue where these two, however, initially hook up comes to us from way back before that. How it ends up happening is Spider-Man saves the day for Black Widow, who at the time believes she is a school teacher named Nancy Rushman. The other weird thing is that Natasha has also lost her memories of who she is, but has managed to retain her fighting know-how, and also assists Spider-Man with apprehending criminals, not thinking that it is weird at all for her to be doing. But, you know, I guess the fighting know-how maybe is in her physical memory? I don't know how that all works, but brains, stuff, wiring. Physical memory? Spider-Man recognizes her and recognizes that her being enamored with him is admittedly pretty weird, as is the fact that she thinks she's a woman named Nancy Rushman when she's not. Once her memories are back, Black Widow is over the flirtation and basically just dips at the end of the issue. She's like, this was cool, but also not into you. Bye. Only me as Nancy Rushman was into you, Spider-Man, sorry about that. Number 3. Louise Kennedy. The story of Louise Kennedy comes with a pretty powerful moral. Never date Kane Parker. Louise was a cop in Salt Lake City who had turned dirty and was on the criminal drug lord Vincent Tannen's payroll. She and Kane shared a night of passion, and both had feelings for the other. Both became this light in the darkness for one another, this hope that they could be redeemed or saved or become better. After Kane found out about Louise's betrayal, however, he ended up being forced to confront her and eventually killed her as a result. After snapping her neck, he left his mark on her, burning her face with the mark of Kane, shocking Ben Reilly, who was actually there to witness all of this, and whom he'd actually saved in killing Louise. It's a very terrible end to a relationship. Let me just burn your face after you're already dead. Number 1. Jessica Carradine. Remember that time Ben Reilly pined after the daughter of the man who murdered Uncle Ben? No? Well, take a seat, cause yeah, that happened. Jessica Carradine is the daughter of Dennis Carradine, the name that would later be given to the man who killed Peter Parker's Uncle Ben. She grew up with a hatred of Spider-Man, believing that the hero was actually to blame for the death of both Ben and her father. She believed that her dad was basically framed by Spidey. Needless to say, she and Ben's relationship is catastrophically ruined when she realizes that he is Spider-Man. I don't even know why Ben would go for this if he was aware of Jessica's name and her ties to the man who murdered Uncle Ben, but hey, I guess it wasn't technically his uncle since he's just Peter's clone. one of Peter's clones. It should be noted that Jessica did eventually come to terms with the fact that her father was actually the guilty party, but she still couldn't be with Ben because she was then just too worried for his safety, since he often puts himself in various dangerous situations as Spidey.
Starting us off in at number 10, Carol Danvers. No one really wanted Peter Parker and Carol Danvers to be a thing, but that's still what we got. And in Ms. Marvel Volume 2, issue 34, Peter asks Carol out, which she said yes to since he had helped her when she was depowered. Tad forceful of him. Then in issue 47 of her solo series, the two of them actually went out on a date at an upscale restaurant, and it is pretty painful to watch, until the date is interrupted by supervillains, thank god. The pair take them out, then end up eating chili dogs on a roof that overlooks the city. Later, it would continue to get weird between the two of them when they teamed up to fight Mac Gargan's Venom. But quite frankly, we're really glad this relationship never really hit the ground running. It's definitely one we can do without. In at number 9, Rogue. In the world of X-Men Forever, which takes place on Earth 161, we got to see a romance blossom between Spider-Man and Rogue. This Rogue had absorbed Nightcrawler's powers, which also changed her to look a lot more like him physically, which did not bode well with her. After that went down, she found herself crossing paths with Spider-Man after dealing with a robbery in New York. Feeling a little lost, she decided to spend the night with him, accompanying him on his patrol, which led to sparks between the two. They actually almost kissed, and would've if it wasn't for being interrupted by the screams of a nearby Jean Grey. Up next, number 8, Spider-Gwen. Okay, so I know we said we wouldn't be talking about alternates of Gwen Stacy with Peter Parker, but this alternate of Gwen had her sights set on a different man in the Spider-Man mantle. We're talking Miles Morales. Spider-Gwen is the Gwen Stacy aka Spider-Woman of Earth 65. Now under the Marvel Now line, she and Miles would get romantically involved with one another. And side note, their Earth 8 alternates even got married. They starred in a story titled Sitting in a Tree, in which their two titles crossed over and made for a story that had our hearts pitter-pattering all the way through. I mean, how could you not ship them? They're so cute together. I mean, unless you're actually one of those people who shipped Miles and Kamala Khan, in which case I am very sorry for your loss.
Number 7, Elizabeth Tyne. Elizabeth Tyne was initially introduced by the name Janine Godby, which was an alias that she assumed to escape her past. The weird thing about this relationship wasn't so much how it unfolded, though being in a relationship with any clone of a superhero is always going to be weird, but more in how it started, and in Elizabeth's resemblance to another major love interest from Spider-Man comics, Mary Jane Watson. I specifically just want to focus on the weird interactions in the beginning of this relationship though, although it is weird that, you know, Ben Reilly's a clone and then Janine/Elizabeth just happens to resemble Mary Jane. That's pretty weird. Ben Reilly approached Janine initially and upon their first meeting was taken with her, asking her out in the most bizarre and kind of strangely movie-esque way. He's like, look, I know this is going to sound like a line, but well, I'm new in town. I know that's lame, but I swear it's true. It's just lame that you're using it as a line, Ben. So I'm new in town, and well, I was wondering if maybe we could have, I don't know, dinner tonight? And initially Janine just turns him down, and I think we can see why from that thing that he just said, which is a lot. I feel like Ben also got Peter's awkward charm as well in the cloning process. However, because it is charm, even though it is awkward, Janine immediately changes her mind because, yeah, awkward charm. Ben never makes it to their date, however, because hero stuff, but does run into Janine and apologizes and asks if they can try again. Now she initially says no once more, and I actually love this like one series of panels so much. I wish that they had just left it there because it's really funny, but she actually adds like right after that he can take her to lunch right now. How spontaneous and romantic and kind of presumptuous, but okay. I also like that he's just like, alright, great, I wasn't doing anything. It's like that's if that were me, I'd probably be like, well, maybe not now, but like maybe in a bit. Number 5, Deborah Whitman. This is an interesting relationship considering it was very one-sided. Deborah Whitman was a secretary at Empire State University where Peter was a student. She pined after Peter, and although at times it seemed like Peter didn't even notice her existence, the two started dating. Needless to say, they didn't make for a great partnership due to the fact that Peter kept having to bail on their dates to attend to heroic business as Spider-Man, but didn't really want to confide in Deborah, so he just gave her a ton of really lame excuses. Eventually the two broke up, but Deborah remained obsessed with him and began to fantasize and hallucinate that he was Spider-Man, in essence making the ultimate excuse for his behavior while also idolizing him. When her therapist approached Peter after learning of this and asked him to wear a Spider-Man suit to help shock her out of her fantasy, he refused to do so, which obviously the therapist was like, well, that's weird, but okay. Deborah, becoming delusional, later ended up in a toxic relationship as a result of all of this, making excuses for her then husband. Fortunately, Peter did eventually confess to her that he was Spider-Man, which helped Deborah to move forward and woke her to the truth of her current relationship, motivating her to get a divorce. Thank goodness. Still pretty crazy. Number 4. Mary Jane Watson. Again. Another weird Spidey pairing with Mary Jane also comes to us from The Ultimates, because Spider-Man's clones all had his memories. They were just all basically into MJ. And not just Jessica. All the clones were meant to have their memories wiped so that they could develop their own identities and also be used in the process, but they escaped the facility where they were kept before this could happen. As a result, Kane, who also here sports an even creepier version of his half-melted face, ends up trapping Mary Jane and kidnapping her, claiming it's all out of love for her. Oh, if someone does that to you, you just need to get out of there. Seriously. Which is what MJ tries to do. She's like, no, let me out! Initially, she thinks that he's Peter from a silhouette, but then when she sees his face, she's horrified and knows something is definitely wrong, and this probably isn't her Peter Parker. Of course, she is right. Kane, out of love for MJ, wants to protect her by making her stronger. To do this, he exposes her to the Oz formula, which ends up turning her into a big red monster temporarily. I bet you thought I was going to say a big red dog, but no, that's Clifford. Fortunately, the real Peter Parker shows up and is able to use his presence to calm MJ down, transforming her back into a normal teenage girl. Well, normal. I mean, I feel like she just went through some stuff and she might transform again, but sort of normal. Mostly normal.
And at number 2, Silver Sable. A sometimes antagonist, sometimes ally of Spider-Man's, Silver Sable, who was introduced in 1985's The Amazing Spider-Man issue 265, has never hooked up romantically with Peter in the 616, but there's certainly been lots of tension and flirtation to say the least. But we did get to see a glimpse of what that underlying sexual tension could amount to in What If Volume 2 issue 21, which was titled, What If Spider-Man Had Married the Black Cat? Now in this story, Black Cat is accidentally murdered by Paladin, and Spider-Man ends up getting romantically involved with Silver Sable in the aftermath. They both bond over the grief they share of their dead loved ones. By the end, it is a bit ambiguous as to whether or not their relationship worked out in the long run. And last but not least, speaking of, we have Black Cat at number 1. Black Cat, aka Felicia Hardy, may have originally been a villain of Spider-Man's, now an anti-hero, but if anything, her criminality made the romantic relationship between her and Peter Parker that much more steamier. Created by Marv Wolfman and Keith Pollard in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 194, Felicia actually chose to become more of an anti-hero because of her relationship with Spider-Man, even becoming his partner for a while. Although, she didn't care much for Peter Parker the civilian. She was way more into Spider-Man the vigilante, and one of the reasons why the two would split up was because of this. Now they've had an on-again, off-again relationship over the years, with Black Cat working as one of Spidey's biggest allies at their best, and her slipping back into the life of a criminal when they've been at their worst. Although that relationship between the two of them may have been tipped permanently into negative land, thanks to Otto Octavius running around in Peter's body as the superior Spider-Man, having broken Black Cat's teeth and abandoned her for the police to pick up. Definitely something that would make someone not want to be into you. Just saying.
Number 10, Captain Marvel. I can't deny, I actually kinda like this ship, but it still feels pretty out of left field, especially if you're more of a cinematic Marvel fan, and that's where a lot of your knowledge comes from. And even if you're not, while there has been quite a bit of flirting between the two in the comics, I would have never expected either hero to actually act on those flirtations and possible feelings. Anyways, Carol basically had a bit of a crush on Spidey, which has come up multiple times in the past, and both were close friends due to their time working side by side on the Avengers. While Carol herself tends to be a bit more serious and Peter is a bit more silly, the two have some pretty adorable interactions, and they also have a lot of strong mutual respect, which is what it's all about when it comes to romance, baby. They went on a date back when Carol was still operating under her Miss Marvel mantle, but her crush has also come up a few times since then. Spider-Man bartered to get that initial date with her in exchange for basically his superhero help. The date was awkward, but it ended on a not so bad note when both heroes kinda realized they were just working way too hard hard to impress the other person, instead of just being themselves. Which is also what romance should be all about, just being yourselves. Also, I like that I did this when I was talking about people having mutual respect. Like, this is fighting. I don't know why I did this, but you know, mutual respect. So we did see them go on that one date, however, we have not seen them date since. Even though it went pretty well by the end of it. Number 9. Deadpool. Okay, so this one isn't an official romance, more of a bromance, but it's shipped enough by people that we could consider it a fan-based pseudo-romance, which, yeah, is a thing I just made up now, so that's a thing now. Fan-based pseudo-romances. That's a term. Basically, Deadpool is borderline in love and obsessed with Spider-Man. It's pretty one-sided for the most part, but the two do have their moments, and there are times when Deadpool even inspires Spider-Man, or at least makes Peter consider Deadpool's maybe not as terrible and as annoying as he originally thought. The two have helped each other out multiple times and even have a whole team-up series together, and it lasted 3 years. It's pretty bromantic.
Up next, number 6, Betty Brant. Betty Brant is a civilian character that Peter has dated in the past. She first appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 4 in 1963, dated Peter briefly, but then would go on to date Flash Thompson. But once upon a time, in What If Volume 1 issue 17, she was actually a superhero, appearing in the story What If the Radioactive Spider Had Bitten Someone Else. As you can imagine, in this hypothetical tale, Peter was not bitten by the radioactive spider, but Betty was, giving her his powers. She confides in the civilian Peter, and he begins to assist her, essentially acting as a sidekick of sorts to her Spider-Woman, or rather, the Amazing Spider-Girl as she preferred to be called. And at one point she fails to stop a criminal from escaping, which leads to the death of Peter's Uncle Ben. Now because of this, she gives up fighting crime altogether, but Peter still goes on to become Spider-Man, with synthetic powers of course. Moving on to number 5, Marrow. Mutant Marrow and Spider-Man had a brief entanglement after Marrow was brainwashed to be a sleeper agent for S.H.I.E.L.D. Operating under the alias Sarah Rushman, which, fun fact, was a previous alias of Black Widow's, she had a bit of a split personality, in which Marrow would terminate life model decoys, and then Sarah was a college kid at Empire State University. That's where she developed a crush on Peter, who was lecturing there, and the two ended up going out on a few dates before he realized who she truly was. Eventually that would dissipate, with Parker helping her break free from S.H.I.E.L.D.'s control by faking her own suicide in a Spider-Man Marrow one-shot crossover from 2001.
Number 3. Spider-Woman. While this isn't an official thing that has happened as of yet, we have gotten quite a few flirty moments between Spider-Man and Jessica Drew from Brian Michael Bendis' run on The Avengers. They weren't full-on shipped, but there was definitely some suggestive light shipping happening there. At one point when they are teamed up, Jessica even scans Spider-Man to make sure he's not a Skrull, just because she finds him to be so strange. His response was to ask if they were on a date. I guess he's just used to women calling him weird on dates, which kind of makes sense because Peter Parker is pretty awkward and weird. Fair enough. Number 2. Silk. One of the strangest romances that Peter has ever had is with another one of the Spider folks, Silk, Cindy Moon. Apparently they were both bit by the same radioactive spider, which is why they believe they are so irresistibly infatuated with one another. Either that or they just are inexplicably attracted to each other. The whole fact that they don't seem to have control of their physical urge to be together makes this relationship one of the weirdest that Peter has ever had, and kind of one of the most uncomfortable in my opinion, especially as even when they're in danger they just feel the urge to just get physical instead of, you know, dealing with the problem at hand. Like, their attraction to one another not only seems to be completely uncontrollable, but it can also potentially endanger innocent lives, or their own lives even. Number 1. Marrow. Yep, probably one of the weirdest relationships that's happened out there for Peter Parker. There was a random time that he briefly dated Marrow. Why? Well, I don't know, cause comics. These two dated very briefly and even had a team-up one-shot titled Spider-Man Marrow in the early 2000s, which delved into their brief relationship and Marrow's change in personality. Their relationship ended after Marrow realized she wasn't really herself, as she was being brainwashed and used by S.H.I.E.L.D. to hunt down life model decoys. After she regained her memories, she escaped S.H.I.E.L.D., but the two ultimately broke up because, yeah, I mean, she hadn't quite been herself basically throughout their relationship, so that'll do it. Oh, also she was a student at ESU where Peter was guest lecturing as a grad student, and Sarah refers to him multiple times in this issue as Mr. Parker, which I cannot deny I found quite a bit creepy.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Black Widow and Bruce Banner. Okay, remember in Age of Ultron when Black Widow was the key to calming Banner down? They were in love, right? I mean, they were flirting at the beginning of the movie, and then even Steve Rogers was like, hey, you're not breaking any bylaws, haha, no sweat, brother. Like, it's a thing, it's happening. And then they're at Clint's secret little family farmhouse talking about running away together. And then after all of this, when Bruce returns to Earth, he says hi to Nat, and then she's like, hi Bruce, that's kind of it. Weird. Well, according to Infinity War co-screenwriter Stephen McFeely, he said they certainly tried to make this happen. We have scenes, we wrote them, we shot them, of the two of them hashing it out. You've been gone, I've moved on, that kind of stuff. It became very clear that it was a scene that was not really essential to the plot. It couldn't survive Infinity War. That thing has to be on rails just to get to the finish line. Couldn't wrap up loose threads just because you wanted to. I mean, that's fair, that's a good call. But I feel like Endgame, we could have spiced it up a little bit, no? I mean, Black Widow dies and Bruce like throws a bench, maybe like 90 yards. It's not even that big of a throw. I'd throw a fit. I'd throw a fit if Scarlett Johansson was my girlfriend and she died. I'd throw a big fit. And before we go on to number 9, guys, if you could go ahead and give us a like down below. It's the thumbs up right there, because it really helps us out here at our studio. You guys rock. Number 9, She-Hulk and Star Fox. Of course, I have to throw this one in the mix. So Eros, aka Star Fox, has this really messed up ability where he can make anybody he comes in contact with fall in love. Like Cupid, but with more yuck. Yeah, he even has the face of somebody who does weird shit like that. He looks like every Brad I've ever met. So the two of them hook up, and Jen even talked about how it was a great time. Okay. Cut to She-Hulk issue 6. Jen is defending Star Fox in a sexual assault case. And the question is, will this affect his Avengers status? Like, yes, most definitely. That's usually how this works. So Jen got to thinking, although she made the first move, did he make it happen? Well, it all ended up being consensual, and Arrow's love touch powers were deactivated. Probably for the better, because, well, I'll get into that a little bit later on. Number 8, Hulk and Company. Okay, for this one, we go to Ultimate Wolverine versus Hulk. So Wolverine at this point is a little occupied, okay? He's on the way to take out the Jolly Green Giant. So he heads to a Tibian town, he's tracking him, he's using his sense, and then finally, he gets his sights on him, and let's just say it's a sight you wouldn't forget. Yeah, he walks in on Hulk with not 1, not 2, but like 40 women. Hi Bruce, he says, before popping out his claws. It's crazy Wolverine tracked him down by sniffing. I feel like he got to that door and was like, yeah, I'm gonna come back later. Something's wrong there. Something's not nice in there. Number 7, She-Hulk and Juggernaut. Shifting over now to Uncanny X-Men 435, The Trial of Juggernaut. It's standard professional practice to not hook up with your clients. I mean, I think, especially if that client is a big bad. So Jennifer Walters at this point was representing Juggernaut. And then in a moment of heroic actions, Juggernaut kind of proves he's not all bad. He doesn't like save a cat out of a tree or anything remarkable. He just decides not to kill a guard. So Jen Walters is like, huh, interesting. Is this a scam? I wonder. Why didn't you escape? He's like, I don't know, man. My dad was a rocket scientist. I've always been a failure. Women's rights are the best. I'm a huge Jets fan. That's literally how it goes. And then Jen's like, oh, and it gets her attention because in the next page, the room is a goddamn mess. The bed has broken into the ground. The lamp is busted. And guys, worst of all, the windows are wide open. They didn't even try and close the curtains a foot. There's like nothing. It's just all glass. Freaks. You're freaks. Number 6. Hulk and She-Hulk. I'll be honest, I was gonna save this one for number 1 on the list, but I didn't want this video to end and then have you guys sitting there like, gross. So in the Old Man Logan storyline, it gets a little ew. We have this gang, the Hulk gang. Yeah, sounds pretty sick, right? They go around bashing people in who don't pay rent. Hell, if that was a Disney Plus show that was announced, I'd be so pumped. Oh wait, Hulk gang is the result of She-Hulk and the Hulk having kids together? I feel like I've said enough already, so now allow me to show you enough. Yep, yuck that. No way. Number 5, Hercules and She-Hulk. She's had a crush on Hercules for a while. I mean, I feel like most of us did growing up, no? He looks similar to Star Fox, so clearly she's got a type. In She-Hulk issue 30, it opens with this shot. She's expressing how if she's gonna fall off the wagon, it could be worse than having it be with Hercules. I mean, fair. But how does something like this actually come to fruition? Well, she mentioned falling off the wagon, but the only wagon that's falling is Hercules' wagon right into the palm of her hand. That's right, a move she picked up from the X-Men. She straight up grabs Hercules by his bum bum and then just hucks him at their giant-sized enemy, which is a great power move, something we almost saw last year in Endgame actually. Yeah, Ant-Man was gonna throw the Hulk, who's gonna throw Spider-Man, and then he would have probably died. That's a lot of power. So this plus taking down an enemy together, things are heating up. There's a lot of chemistry, a lot of chemistry. After all, once you use somebody's assets like that, the rest kind of makes sense. I mean, maybe not in an RV in a parking lot, but hey, I'm not judging. Number 4, She-Hulk and Tony Stark. I mean, it was only a matter of time before these two crossed paths and did the dirty. So they're both known for their crazy hookups. And then in She-Hulk issue 17, we see it go down. But it's different, okay? So Tony at this time is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Jen Walters at this point was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it all starts with a debriefing. Of course, a debriefing. Now, was the debriefing professional in any manner? Do we have PowerPoints and laser pointers? No, we didn't. No. Tony gets a candlelit dinner aboard the helicarrier. Even Clay Quarterman's like, hey, maybe I should debrief her. I don't know, just a thought. Get out of here, perv. The issue is interesting because like I said, they're both known to be the soups who get around town, but Tony gets treated like this cool playboy dude. They're like, yeah, keep doing it, man. Keep getting those girls. And then She-Hulk gets all the shame. The double standards here are nuts. So while they're about to open this conversation up, Tony starts to say, well, Jen, try looking at it from this angle. Bam, evil attacks in the form of robots. And they're not even out of bed yet. Great timing. She-Hulk's like, yeah, don't take this the wrong way, but you should definitely get dressed right now. It would have been a good conversation too. She-Hulk would have told them exactly what's up and the readers would have been like, okay, heard. Fair. Number 3, Kyra and the Hulk. Planet Hulk is a great run. We have this savage alien planet, barbarian tribes. It's kind of like Gladiator vibes, it's great. And when it comes to love, it's still in the air, just this time around it's a bit more of a duty rather than a passion. So we find Kyra Oldstrong and the two hit it off. Like really quickly. Hulk comes out and asks her to be his queen. Just like that, let's do it. Sure, Game of Thrones style, all right. Our guy doesn't waste any time. We love to see it. Then their wedding, I mean, shadow ceremony happens and out comes 2 kids. After her death, yeah, she gave birth to Scar and his evil other half like in secret, Hero Kala. I wish we saw this unfold on Sakaar in the MCU. I feel like Ragnarok should have been a touch darker. All right, it was too fun. It was too fun, sue me, I don't know. Number 2, She-Hulk and Man-Wolf. The son of J. Jonah Jameson, John Jameson, a lot of J's in there, got married to She-Hulk. Yeah, it was during the Civil War where the two had been dating and then decided to take it up a notch in the terms of holy matrimony. She loved him so much she would purposely try and stay in her human form because Man-Wolf preferred that. Gotta love controlling relationships. Sounds lovely, but this is a weird romance list, so there's more to it than just that. See, Man-Wolf and She-Hulk had a rocky relationship, so when they got married, it was kind of weird. You're like, do they love each other? Is this kind of... He's really controlling and he's weird. Well, it turns out their love wasn't so natural after all. Star Fox, that weirdo that I mentioned earlier in this list, he was using his powers, his love powers, to make them love each other. So it was never really authentic. It's all a sham. So when she finds out, not only is she hurt and heartbroken, but she quickly slides over those divorce papers and Man-Wolf and her go separate ways. But it wasn't easy for Man-Wolf. I mean, Jen Walters is a catch. I'd be pretty upset too. I'd be like crying and signing, tears would be dripping onto the paper. Oops, gotta get another one. And finally, number 1, Hawkeye and She-Hulk. Okay, with all these new Disney shows being announced, there's like 50 of them, I swear. One of them that I'm most excited for is the animated What If series. There's a lot of fun and a lot of weird in these comics. Like Volume 2, Issue 114, for example, we see Jen Walters and Hawkeye have a kid. Yeah, they name him CJ, little Clint Jr. He shares both skills of his parents, that of being green and lean, while also knowing how to shoot an arrow. It's a great combo. You're gonna get a lot of shit done. You're gonna kill it at birthday parties. This all happens when the Beyonders assemble heroes and villains to scrap it out during the events of Secret Wars on Battleworld. But what if they never left after they settled the truce? Although we don't see the two in their awkward flirting, what's your favorite color? Stages, they seem to hit it off really quite well. I love the what if stuff. I mean, Captain America and Rogue, I mean, that alone is just, there's a lot of crazy in there.
Number 10, Star Fox. These two were so weird in the comics, and definitely the writing of how this all kind of came about is something I feel like most of us would just like to forget, which is why they are ranked so low. The two had a fling one night when they were both Avengers. Jen even described the sex as being amazing, but later she reminisces about her night with Star Fox while defending him in a sexual assault case. She begins to worry through hearing a woman's testimony that he has used his powers and influence on her to make her fall for him. It turned out that he hadn't done that, but something just as bad. He had manipulated her into falling for someone else. He was of course just doing it because he wanted to see Jen happy, but manipulating someone into having feelings for another person, which later results in them getting married, is never really a good look, especially on someone who is supposed to be a hero like Eros. What were you thinking, Star Fox? What were you thinking? Number 9. Man-Wolf. She-Hulk and Man-Wolf had a brief and rocky romance which later became a full-blown love story to them, who were both under the influence of Eros. Star Fox made the two of them fall in love and they both became obsessed with one another. She-Hulk even went so far as to try and stay in her human form when she was around John, who preferred her that way. The two eloped, but when Jen found out the truth behind why they really loved one another, she immediately wanted a divorce, finally understanding why her and John also had so many unresolvable disagreements, yet somehow decided to stay together. John wanted to give it another go, saying that he still loved Jen, but she refused to give in, claiming that really they had never loved one another, leaving Man-Wolf, aka John Jonah Jameson III, with no options but to sign the divorce papers. I get it though, She-Hulk's pretty awesome, I'd want to hold on to that too. Number 8. Richard Rory. While Richard may not be a hero in the super sense, he has worked heroically to try and protect the monstrous hero Man-Thing after an encounter with him left Rory forever changed. Richard was originally a DJ for a radio station in Florida who always seemed to find himself down on his luck. Again, not a great pick when it comes to partners for Jen, but definitely one that briefly happened. These two ran into each other in the streets of Las Vegas, and Rory offered Jennifer Walters a ride after he suspected that she had had a run-in with the terrifying She-Hulk. She originally turned him down until she saw his sweet ride, which was limo. Rory had just won a ton of money at the casino and was currently quite well off. Jen decided to go with Richard. Richard is a pessimist who feels he always has bad luck, and as such this makes him pretty mopey, and we usually see anything that happens to him in a negative mindset as a result. Although Richard may have not been great for Jen, Jen was pretty good for him, offering that Richard's main problem was actually that he just had an unhealthy self-image. The two parted ways after an adventure involving the Man-Thing, though they would run into each other a couple more times in the comics. They parted with a kiss. Number 7. Clay Quartermain. Clay was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and led the Hulkbusters at one point. He recruited She-Hulk for S.H.I.E.L.D. when she was called in after being a registered superhuman under the Superhuman Registration Act. Shortly after joining up, Clay called She-Hulk Mrs. Jameson using her former married name. She corrected him, saying that she had actually reverted back to Walters after her divorce. Hearing she was divorced, Clay became intrigued, and it's implied that he put a move on her. She-Hulk did end up sleeping with him, though she seems to express some remorse after, thinking to herself that Jennifer Walters would not have done that, but as She-Hulk, she does what she wants, when she wants, and with whom she wants. However, it also seemed that her decision to sleep with Quartermain left her questioning her own sense of self, and caused her to look in the mirror and face an emptiness that seemed to be eating away inside her. Hawkeye. In the What If series Volume 2, Issue 114, we get to examine a world where heroes and villains stayed on Battleworld during the events of the original Secret Wars, laid down their arms, and ended up basically retiring and settling down. One of the oddest couples to come out of this What If story was She-Hulk and Hawkeye, who had a son named CJ, who was green with his mom's strength, but the skill of his dad when it came to being a crack shot. How these two came together exactly we'll never know, but hey, at least they weren't quite as strange as the pairing of Captain America and Rogue, so there's that. Number 5. Iron Man. Oddly enough, someone else who also has a romantic history with She-Hulk tried to stop this from happening, Clay Quartermain. Tony appears and offers to debrief She-Hulk, revealing a candlelit dinner setting in a room on the helicarrier, despite the fact that Quartermain insists that he should be the one doing any debriefing. Tony Stark and She-Hulk end up in bed together after the debriefing, if there was one at all, and actually begin to have a fairly interesting conversation. She-Hulk inquires as to how Tony manages to sleep around, expanding that when she does it she's labeled as a skank, but when he does it he is glorified as a player. Tony is about to answer and provide Jennifer with his insight when the helicarrier is attacked, detracting what could have been undoubtedly a very interesting conversation between the two supers. Number 4. Hercules. She-Hulk has had a thing for Hercules for a while in the comics. She's fantasized about him on more than one occasion and fought alongside him. In one instance, he made an appearance in Volume 2, Issue 30 of She-Hulk, where the two got up to more than just a fantasy, and more than just fighting. She-Hulk teamed up to help Hercules take down a Celtic god, which ended up with the two of them alone together in an ambulance. They got to talking apparently, and one thing led to another. Before Jen knew it, she was resting in the arms of a god after finally getting to sleep with him. She knew it wasn't going to end up anywhere, but she was pretty fine with that. One thing I've always loved about She-Hulk is how much she just owns her own sexuality. So cool to see that in comics in general. Number 3. Thor. More recently in the comics, She-Hulk and Thor have been a thing, which has excited many fans. Both heroes are known for their strength, making this superhero duo quite the power couple. Originally, Jen was worried about having a crush on Thor. She feared that he only liked her for her She-Hulk form, but in Avengers Volume 8, she and Thor have a heart-to-heart. Just as Jen is ready to walk out on Thor, he confesses his feelings, admitting he is enamored by the She-Hulk, but who he really wants to know is the She inside, who he feels he has distance from. He wants to know Jen's desires and thoughts and fall in love with them. The two seal the deal with a kiss. Aww. I also love how that all starts with Thor being like, I'm terrible with words. And then he's like, JK, I just nailed it. Number 2. Wyatt Wingfoot. She-Hulk met Wyatt during her time on the Fantastic Four roster when she was standing in for Ben Grimm. The team had a run-in with Wyatt and his tribe. But Wyatt Wingfoot is not superpowered. He has acted as an ally to both the Fantastic Four and She-Hulk herself on her own adventures. He often also acts as a hero when it comes to protecting his tribe, the Kiwazi. Sorry if I say that wrong. Jennifer and Wyatt quickly begin a romance that would span over decades in the comics. She met his parents, he attended law school, and even at one point proposed to her. Unfortunately, later his own duties as chief of the Kiwazi tribe and ensuring the tribe's safety would oftentimes keep him away from her. Still, the two's on and off again relationship has been revisited as late as the 2000s and as early as the 1980s. That's a long relationship. Number 1. Luke Cage. So, I know Luke Cage is destined to be with Jessica Jones, and I love the two of them together, but She-Hulk and Luke Cage had some of the cutest chemistry that I've ever seen in comics. They both worked together in Heroes for Hire, and it was during She-Hulk's time there that Luke Cage won a date with her by betting that he could get to the control room of a building before she could. He won running through the walls to get there, and She-Hulk agreed to go on a date with Luke. He and Jen just have some great dialogue during their time together in the 90s. She-Hulk is quite sassy, and they both seem to challenge each other in the best of ways, causing one another to reflect on their world views. They push each other to be better too, and are both tough enough to survive getting romantic with the other. Short-lived romance. Bring it back. Number 10. Juggernaut. She-Hulk slept with Juggernaut after getting to know him as his defense lawyer. The two seemed to bond over sports and Juggernaut's opinion on women's rights. Kane Marco's thoughts on the subject seem to be that women are sometimes just a heck of a lot better than men. A fair conclusion to come to after spending the night with She-Hulk, I'd think. She-Hulk would later deny that this ever happened though, whenever another character in the comics brought it up. It was later revealed that apparently it was not the main continuity She-Hulk of Earth 616 at all who had slept with Juggernaut, but the Jennifer Walters of Earth 721, aka Earth A, who had temporarily given herself the Earth 616's powers before escaping to this reality. However, in She-Hulk Volume 2, Issue 25, it would appear that She-Hulk breaks the fourth wall with Kane Marco to renounce her guilt for their one-night stand and admits her true feelings for him, upset that the writers have been forcing her to appear ashamed of their time together. So I don't know if that was also Earth A She-Hulk or what's happening there. Number 9. Zapper. Dr. Daniel Ridge Jr. was one of She-Hulk's first boyfriends. Despite the fact that they never saw it all the way through, he remained kind of weirdly obsessed with Jennifer, even after they broke up. The woman he married, Christine, even ended up altering her appearance to look more like Jennifer, just to get his attention. Zapper ended up being called in to help Jennifer after exposure to Warzone's toxins affected her and made her kinda weak. When she momentarily died, Zap was there to resurrect her and ended up kissing her in front of his wife. Ooh. Christine actually blamed Jennifer, thinking that She-Hulk was trying to seduce Zapper. The whole thing was kinda like a soap opera. She-Hulk actually thought that Zapper was behind Warzone and had engineered the enemy solely for the purpose of She-Hulk needing to be healed by Daniel, allowing him to win her back. When it turned out this wasn't true and Christine's dad was actually behind the attack, She-Hulk became even more enraged until her own father showed up and kinda calmed her down. In the end, Zapper and his wife ended up seeking marriage counseling to help resolve their issues surrounding Jennifer. You know you're crazy obsessed with someone when you marry someone who looks pretty much just like them. Number 8. Pug. He's so cute. Augustus Pugliese is a fellow co-worker of Jennifer Walters. He works as a lawyer for Goodman, Lieber, Kurtzberg, and Holloway, the same firm that Walters also works for. Pug is one of She-Hulk's good friends, and ended up being there for her after she began questioning her feelings surrounding being herself versus She-Hulk, and her potential addiction to her superpowered state. Pug stayed over and helped her make a list surrounding the pros and cons between herself and her superpowered state, She-Hulk. Pug used to have very strong romantic feelings for Jen, and wanted to confess them them to her when they were working to help Spider-Man in his case against J. Jonah Jameson. After she ended up with Man-Wolf though, Pug thought there was really no point in loving Jen and pining after her, and ended up taking a potion to cure him of what he felt were unrequited feelings. As such, the two are now simply really great friends. Shame that this couple did not get more of a chance, though the Earth A version of Pug, of Earth 721, did get more of a chance as he ended up marrying that version of Jennifer Walters. Yay, in an alternate reality anything is possible. Number 7. Star Fox. Okay, so while Eros, especially in the older comics, can come off as kind of a super creepy dude due to his pleasure granting and emotional manipulation powers, he and She-Hulk as a pairing both seem to genuinely have a good time. She-Hulk and Janet Van Dyne revisit the one night the pair had together in She-Hulk Volume 2 Issue 7. As much as I find the idea of these two hooking up kind of cringeworthy, Jennifer seemed to remember the night fondly as one where she had a lot of fun with Eros, and the amount of enjoyment that Star Fox's prowess, abilities, and skills appeared to have given She-Hulk is why he's ranked at number 7. I mean, we can't really rank him much higher, as despite Jen having a good time when it came to their physical exploits, he still kind of manipulated her and John Jameson into having feelings for one another to the extent that they later got married, despite issues that would have normally destroyed most relationships. Like, you know, Jameson not wanting Jennifer to be in her She-Hulk state. Not cool, Man-Wolf, and very not cool, Star Fox. Number 6. Micah. She-Hulk met Micah at a fashion show of Janet Van Dyne's. Micah is a Swedish underwear model and made the top 10 of People magazine's sexiest men alive. He ended up escorting She-Hulk back to the Avengers mansion, and the two had a fling. We see them in bed together again a few days later, but Micah ends up breaking up with She-Hulk because he says he is looking for someone with more depth. It seems She-Hulk's fear of being perceived as boring as Jennifer Walters actually prevented her from really creating a relationship with Micah. She's a little too free-loving for the model, I guess. This revelation leaves She-Hulk confused, as you know, I mean, Micah's an underwear model, so what is depth for him? I don't know. Underwear models can be deep too though, I guess. Number 5. Tony Stark. Tony Stark ends up seducing She-Hulk on the helicarrier during a debrief in regards to the Hulkbuster team that she is a part of. The debrief appears to occur over a candlelit dinner, and the two end up in bed together. Being a couple of the most well-known players in the Marvelverse, She-Hulk ends up pondering as they lay in bed about the way women versus men are perceived when it comes to playing the field. Tony is about to offer insight on the topic when their conversation is interrupted by the helicarrier being attacked. Not something that is good news for She-Hulk, as apparently she's known as the Helicarrier Destroyer because she was on it before when it was destroyed, so. But maybe for the best, as in She-Hulk Volume 1, Tony seems to express concern over She-Hulk's frequent overnight guests during her stay at the Avengers mansion, fearing that they pose a risk to the security of the mansion. So his thoughts on She-Hulk's free-loving romantic life, they might not be so kind after all. Come on, Tony, don't criticize She-Hulk. You have the same problem. If anyone's creating security risks, it's also probably you. Number 4. Wyatt Wingfoot. One of my most favorite romantic interests of She-Hulk. Wyatt and She-Hulk first met during her time with the Fantastic Four, where she was standing in for the Thing after he opted to stay a little longer on Battleworld to reflect on himself and do some soul searching after being depowered. Wyatt and She-Hulk would instantly hit it off and end up dating on and off again throughout most of her time in the comics, including Wyatt even joining her on adventures. I really love the pair of them together because Wingfoot, or Wheezy as Jen affectionately calls him, has always respected whatever Jen wants to do. He stands by her to support her, but he never seems to try and control her. Instead, he's just there when she needs him. And as Jen has her own things going on and is a strong, independent woman, lawyer, and hero, he also has his own life as well, which sometimes takes him away from her. He ends up as the chief of the fictional Native American Hiwazi tribe of Oklahoma, and as such has his own responsibilities that he also often has to attend to. Number 3. Hercules. Okay, so although Wyatt may be sweeter, Hercules is someone that She-Hulk has fantasized about for issues and issues of comic books. Finally, the two ended up together in more than just a fantasy when She-Hulk was bailed out of prison in order to help Hercules in a fight and prevent him from, causing so much damage, as he's sometimes likened to do. The two worked together to take down the Celtic god Bendigeidfran. I don't know if I'm saying that right, even though I have an Irish heritage, so I should really be saying it right. Who is also referred to as the Blessed Crow, who was using Bran Murphy as an avatar in his fight against Hercules. She-Hulk and Hercules successfully defeated the giant avatar and ended up later hooking up. Finally! After years of fantasizing. Though, before this happened, they actually almost hooked up during the Sensational She-Hulk run. That time, however, She-Hulk refused Hercules' advances, labeling him a muscle-bound moron, and not understanding whatever it was that she saw in him before. He liked her spirit though, insisting still that they spend the night, and smacked her on the butt, prompting She-Hulk to send him crashing through a wall with a single punch. Well, I mean, I guess she ended up changing her mind about that. Even if he is a muscle-bound moron, he's still a pretty hot guy, I guess. That Hercules. Can't say no to a demigod. Number 2, Luke Cage. So these two have some of the best comic book chemistry I have ever seen. Both are stubborn and yearn to prove a point to the other, but are also kind enough to listen and learn from each other. She-Hulk sees Luke as a criminal until she agrees to go out on a date with him, where she learns about his past and his misdeeds, but also how he was kinda wrongly convicted. As a lawyer, she truly believed in the law until she learned about Luke Cage's plight. In this way, he made Jennifer a better person, and together the two made an impossibly strong team, both intellectually and physically. Speaking of physically, Luke has also attested that he would be resilient enough to actually handle a physical relationship with She-Hulk, allowing her to not have to worry about smashing her partner, well, you know, smashing with her partner. Number 1, Hulk. So, here's the scoop. I did not want to talk about what happened in the Old Man Logan storyline, but I got too many requests for it on my last video to not mention it. So, here we go. You're welcome, I guess, / sorry for those of you that don't want to hear about this. In the Old Man Logan universe, Earth 807128 to be specific, it turns out that Hulk ends up going crazy from the gamma radiation, eventually having his mind kinda warped. This, combined with the fact that She-Hulk, his cousin, Jennifer Walters, is the only one left on Earth that he finds himself biologically compatible with, means that he ends up mating with her. We don't know if She-Hulk was into it or not. All we see is their inbred offspring and their offspring's offspring, and the fact that Bruce has become villainous as his mind has deteriorated. This isn't the first time these first cousins have been weirdly shipped though. Hulk ended up going wild with lust in the Incredible Hulk Annual 2000 and almost accidentally mated with his cousin while in a horny rage. Ugh. So there you go, now you heard about it. Thanks for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you enjoyed this list. And it's time for some bonus content in the form of an honorable mention. My wishful thinking hypothetical fanship for this list comes in the form of Patsy Walker's Hellcat. While Jennifer Walters has never had a female romantic interest or seemed to express any romantic feelings for anyone of the same sex, sadly, I just love the chemistry between these two ladies. Patsy Walker is also confident, fun, and sexy like She-Hulk, and I think they would make the best pair. And if you want to join me on imagining there could be something there between these two ladies, you should check out the heartbreaking moment when Patsy sneaks in to visit She-Hulk in her own series, Patsy Walker aka Hellcat issue number 8. The love between them is just, oh, it's so real and heartfelt, and She-Hulk's in a coma, oh, she's holding her hand. I think if She-Hulk were going to have a relationship with any woman, this would be the one that I would pick for her. Who would you like to see She-Hulk end up with? What's your favorite comic book series of She-Hulks? I'm a Sensational She-Hulk fan for sure, but I also really love She-Hulk Volume 2 personally.
Coming in at number 10, we have Behemoth, an evil clone of the Hulk. Created through the scheming of the villainous Master of the World, an enlightened caveman of a villain who usually fights against the Canadian superhero team Alpha Flight, this clone was named Behemoth when he was sent along with several other cloned heroes to fight the Heroes for Hire. And while any clone of the Incredible Hulk is obviously going to be a bit intimidating, this clone luckily wasn't long for this world, surviving just a single issue before the Heroes for Hire defeated him by blowing up the entire island they were fighting on. Then again, if you're fighting the Hulk, that's probably the least messy ending you're likely to get. Coming in at number 9, we have Daydream. Now, this entry might be more of an honorable mention, as it's a bit unclear if Daydream was genetically tied to Bruce Banner at all, or just Betty Ross, but either way, she's definitely one of the weirdest daughters someone could have. Created by combining the mental energies of both Betty Ross and the Marvel villain known as Nightmare, Daydream is half human and half dream entity, capable of teleporting at will and reshaping the dreams and mental state of anyone around her, including the Incredible Hulk. Coming in at number 8, we have another technical Hulk daughter with Carmilla Black, aka the New Scorpion. A genetically engineered human created from the genetic material of Monica Rappaccini, the scientist supreme of AIM, and Bruce Banner. Carmilla has a scorpion stinger connected to her arm and a natural immunity to every poison in the world. While best known for serving with S.H.I.E.L.D. after discovering her origins were connected to the evil AIM, Carmilla has served with several different teams over the course of her career, and even if she might not be aware that she has some of Bruce Banner's DNA within her, she definitely is a green fighter the Hulk could be proud of. Coming in at number 7, we have the Incredible Claw. And just in case you can't tell from the text on screen, yes, that's just the Hulk spelled backwards. Created by the psychic villain Xemnu to be a superior clone to the original Grey Hulk, Claw was far more intelligent than the usual Grey Hulk persona, at the cost of him being slightly less powerful than his original inspiration. Claw was nearly able to kill both the Green and the Red Hulk with the help of Xemnu, but was eventually defeated whenever the hero Impossible Man combined both Red and Green Hulks into the Compound Hulk, a more powerful gamma creature that was able to put down Claw for good. Don't you just love a totally normal and not weird at all comic book ending? Coming in at number 6, we have Hero Kala. An infant son that the Hulk thought he had lost during the destruction of the planet Sakaar, Hero spent many years wandering the galaxy after he survived the explosion due to his mother's cocoon. Embracing the heritage of his mother's people, Hero converted their religion's old power into a new power by merging his psychic abilities with that of Galactus's power cosmic. While not green-skinned or as strong as his father, Hero Kala has continued to try and lead the Sakaaran people and find them a new suitable home amongst the stars. Coming in at number 5, we have the Nerd Hulk, an evil clone from the Ultimate Universe. Created from Bruce Banner's stem cells by the sociopathic brother of Tony Stark, Gregory, Nerd Hulk was intended to be the best of both worlds version of the Hulk, with all the strength and rage of his gamma form combined with the intellect and restraint of Bruce Banner. However, this had the downside of making the Hulk actually afraid of combat despite his strength, and for a long time he was considered a bit of a laughingstock until by chance he was bitten by the Ultimate Universe's version of a vampire. This combination of a vampire's bloodlust and the Hulk's strength finally made the vampire Nerd Hulk a worthy villain for the Ultimates, and was only able to be defeated when he was cleverly teleported across the world into sunlight by Captain America. Coming in at number 4, we have Bo Banner. In the alternate apocalyptic future that the Old Man Logan stories take place in, the Hulk name has fallen into ruin, as the Hulk Gang is a roaming band of cannibal hillbillies that are apparently the spawn of the Hulk and his own cousin, having gone insane after receiving too much additional radiation from this version of America's nuclear war. One of the leaders of this hillbilly gang is Bo Banner, who winds up killing Wolverine's family after they're late paying protection fees. And while Wolverine dispatches Bo in a gruesome use of C4 explosives, cannibal descendants of the Hulk are still a pretty nasty and powerful surprise to find in this dark alternate future. Coming in at number 3, we have Lyra from Earth 8009. Born from the genetic material of the Hulk and her mother Thundra, the leader of an alternate future in which a warrior clan of women have taken over the planet, Lyra was intended to be the perfect union of the strongest man and the strongest woman in existence. And while Lyra's gamma powers have the unfortunate setback of actually making her weaker as she gets angrier, Lyra still has one hell of a punch due to the combined genetics of her parents. Trained in combat with every sort of physical weaponry imaginable, Lyra has since become an ally and friend of Earth 616's She-Hulk and fights by her side as an occasional accomplice. Coming in at number 2, we have Bruce Banner Jr. The youngest child of the Hulk gang from the post-apocalyptic Old Man Logan future we introduced earlier in this list, Bruce Banner Jr. was first introduced as just an ugly Hulk baby, kinda looking a little bit like the Grinch. However, in a storyline set 500 years later, this Hulk baby has grown into a new, more heroic version of the Hulk villain Maestro, himself a completely different evil future version of Bruce Banner. Having overcome his horrific origins to become an intelligent and heroic leader, Bruce Banner Jr. would occasionally cross over into the main Marvel universe and is currently still looking for a new world to call his own. And finally, coming in at our top spot, we have Scar, the son of the Incredible Hulk and the older brother of Hero Kala. The offspring of the Hulk and Sierra the Old Strong, Scar's mother died so that he might live during the destruction of his planet, and eventually made his way back to Earth following in his father's footsteps. Calling himself the Killer of Killers, Scar has all of the strength of his father combined with the stone and magma manipulating power of his mother, and has walked the line between hero and anti-hero often enough that he was even Steve Rogers' double agent whenever Norman Osborn had taken over the Dark Avengers. No matter what situation he finds himself in, Scar will always be one of the strongest Gamma beings in the entire Marvel Universe.
Number 10. Domino. With all these crazy missions that superheroes go on, you gotta wonder just how they deal with some of the horrible situations that they've had to deal with. Maybe hooking up with each other is one of those ways to pass the time and get over things. Yeah, so Wolverine and Domino weren't together too often, but when they were assigned to the same X-Force team, their relationship grew pretty strong and they ended up working out a friends with benefits type deal. So yeah, after these crazy missions, they would unwind with each other. We can find this firsthand in X-Force Sex and Violence. I mean, of course, just read the title. And in this story, Domino gets involved with the Assassin's Guild and the Hand and needed a way to get her mind off the events. I mean, you could do that, or therapy, for sure. Different strokes for different folks. Literally. And before we go on to number 9, if you guys want to go ahead and give us a thumbs up on the video because it helps out our channel so much. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching. Now let's keep going with this crazy list. Number 9, Amir. This next romance lasted about 10 issues and it begins with Wolverine Volume 3, issue 48. She even says for Logan not to worry about their hookup because Atlanteans don't have the same hang-ons that humans do when it comes to physical intimacy. It can be just about the physical elements only. And it's funny because Wolverine is the timid one this time around. He's vulnerable. He even says that he's not worried. He just feels like he needs someone to talk to lately. So what started out as Amir and her team helping Wolverine with a mission turned into this relationship, with Wolverine really caring about her. Amir unfortunately didn't survive during a mission against the Scimitar organization. Number 8. Lin Sun. This next one happens in the 4-parter Wolverine Manifest Destiny. So when Wolverine was in Chinatown, San Francisco, he saved a woman named Lin from the crime lord, the Black Dragon. She refers to him as her lover in issue 3. Now, what Wolverine doesn't realize is that by successfully taking out the Black Dragon, Logan now becomes that role. So naturally he refused, but by refusing, that upset Lin. To quit would be dishonorable to everybody, so while he was leaving, she stabbed him in the eye with a spearhead, warning him not to return. So when the X-Men relocated to San Francisco, he took a trip down memory lane, but now Lin is not the same. Lin is dead, lover, she says. You killed her a long time ago. Then she goes on to explain that now she's the Black Dragon, Queen of the Triads, and Empress of the Chinatown Underworld. Wolverine took over as the new Black Dragon and Lin escaped through the sewers holding that same spearhead.
Number 7, Scotty and Jade. Scotty and Jade were Old Man Logan's naturally born children, which he had and raised with his partner Maureen. It's thought that Scotty was named after Scott Summers, Wolverine's old and long dead friend. Both his son and daughter, as well as Maureen, were of course murdered in Logan's absence when he went on that mission to acquire enough money to pay rent to the Hulk gang. This was the consequence that Logan was threatened with by the Banner Clan if he didn't pay rent in time. The sad thing was he did collect and bring back the money in time, only to find that the Hulks had gotten bored and restless, tired of waiting, so they killed his family anyways, before the due date that Logan and the Banner Clan had actually agreed upon. Pretty tragic.
Number 6, Black Cat. Wolverine and Black Cat Claws was a 3-parter released in 2010. In it, we find the start of a romance with Felicia Hardy, Black Cat. When she first met with Wolverine, they were both kidnapped by Kraven the Hunter, and in order for him to hunt them down on his tropical island. Sounds like a great way to pass the time, sure. Now at the start of this, Black Cat and Wolverine were really not a fan of each other. But after you go against Kraven and run around together, you're bound to bond in some way or another, especially when you're beating up bad guys together. So while it turned out that Kraven was actually a robot the whole time, the true villain all along this whole time was Arcade and his girlfriend White Rabbit. So now they're taking down robots together, and in the 3rd part of the story, the cover alone suggests that the pair get pretty close. So Black Cat steals a helicopter, Wolverine almost gets eaten by a fish. It's wild. And then this is when Black Cat admits that Wolverine was growing on her. And then on cue, he hops out of the water. And then cuts to the two of them on a date a few days later where Black Cat reminds Wolverine that she can also smell pheromones.
Number 5, Emiko. Emiko is the adopted daughter of Wolverine. She first appeared in Uncanny X-Men issue 181, where her mother was killed when a dragon from Battleworld rampaged through Tokyo. True story. Wolverine agreed to look after Emiko as her mother lay dying, worried for her daughter's safety. Wolverine promised to raise her as his own, and well, that's kinda what he did. Well, it was mostly his fiancée Mariko who raised her, as Wolverine of course was often busy with X-Men missions. After Mariko was assassinated by the Hand, Emiko ended up in the foster system. When Logan learned Emiko's foster parents were not taking proper care of her, he removed her from their care and asked his friend Yukio to look after her. Seeing as how Emiko has spent most of her life raised with Clan Yoshida, although she does not have any powers just yet, she is trained in the martial arts. She's even teamed up with Wolverine and Yukio at the end of issue 303 of Wolverine. It's pretty cute.
Number 4. Gak. Sometimes you can find love in places you never thought you would, like say for instance in Savage Land. When Wolverine got to Savage Land, he was alone. He was doing a solo adventure and then he encountered a tribe whose leader challenged him to a battle, trial by combat. The two battled it out and Logan came out on top with the tribe cheering along. Gak is defeated, but who is this Gak? When he goes to meet the leader, he's surprised that it is a woman. Who knew? They can fight too, Wolverine. They spent some time together and they eventually became lovers. So Gak became pretty protective over him as she fought off the other woman who got even close to him. Things took a turn once Wolverine started getting chased down by a dinosaur, and then he was promptly eaten by said dinosaur. But of course he was revealed to be alive, and then Gak tried to find ways to keep him in the Savage Land after that. She's like, yay, you're back, but also, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna hide your plane. Yeah, she hid his plane from him. She wanted no way for this guy to get out. But eventually he had to return home by plane with a sad Gak watching. Hate to see you go, but love to watch you leave, Logan.
Number 3. Torrent. Kendall Logan is the amazingly cool daughter of Wolverine and Storm from the alternate Earth of 9811. Reality 9811 gives us an alternate world where the heroes and villains that Beyonder transported to Battleworld during Secret Wars never left. Torrent was one of the heroic children who assembled to battle the children of the villains. Torrent has her father's healing factor and her mother's abilities to control the weather. She can also fly, like Storm.
Number 2. You know.
Number 10. Ren Duran. Ren Duran, which sounds kinda like Duran Duran but isn't, is Logan's daughter from an alternate universe. Her mother was a sorceress known as Sylvie Darkness, and she grew up in a family with a strong lineage of magic users. She herself has both a healing factor and magical abilities, which allow her to open portals. Her bone claws seem to also be imbued with mystical energy as they glow. Ren made her first full appearance in 2019's Marvel Comics Presents issue number 5. Number 9. Shadowstalker. Are you ready for the mongrels? Cause they are coming! coming for Wolverine's head, that is. The Mongrels were a group of Wolverine's children who all kinda had a personal vendetta against him, many of them being abandoned by him. They were convinced by Daken to become a group known as the Mongrels, who were trained by the Red Right Hand to become assassins and to take on Wolverine. Shadowstalker was one member of the Mongrels who didn't even get a name. We also don't know who her mother was, but she had a very interesting look when it came to her costume, sporting a weird mask with flail-like hair tendrils, like a flail ponytail. Pony flails. Cannonfoot. Cannonfoot was another mongrel. Once again, we do not know his name or the name of his mother, but Daken also found him and brought him into the fold. His abilities we know to be closer to Wolverine's, giving him an animal-like instinct, superhuman strength, speed, and agility. He also appears to have claws on his toes and fingers, similar to Sabretooth.
Number 7. The Pink Lady. Wolverine and Dupe, issue 1. We find the Pink Lady, this mysterious woman who Logan met during his time with Dupe. Now, Wolverine and Dupe were looking for this stolen artifact named the Pink Mink, which of course led them to the Pink Lady. At first, Dupe is all over her. She's laying on the pool table, they're having a moment, and Logan in the meantime is just hanging out at the bar. In issue 2, things start to escalate. So the Pink Lady is sitting with Dupe and Logan, and things are getting kind of flirty now. After a daring rescue, there's a few emotions in the air, and Logan tells Dupe to back off because he is clearly not her type. The Pink Lady even asks them to stop fighting over her, but sarcastically, you know? She's like, hey, knock it off, quit it you two. Logan ends up getting with the Pink Lady, and Dupe gets with the Pink Mink. Everybody wins.
Gunhawk. Gunhawk became the leader of the Mongrels. He actually got a name, and so did his mother. Yay! His name is William Downing, and his mother was Dolores Downing. She is believed to be a Canadian woman, though the story of her and Logan's relationship still remains pretty unknown. Downing's mother died of old age, so it's likely that she and Logan met a long time ago. And Downing himself is not a young man. He takes the name Gunhawk, inspired by the famous Western gunslinger of the same name. He doesn't appear to have any powers, but he is an expert strategist and skilled combatant. Like the rest of the Mongrels, William died fighting his father. Wolverine gave them the option to surrender, but they refused. Later on, Wolverine would discover that the team was composed solely of his children and buried them feeling great sorrow and remorse for being made to kill them. Wolverine just has such a tragic story. Everything that happens to him is terrible. Number 5. Brian and Mari. Brian and Mari Logan are the children of both Mariko and Wolverine from Earth 1298. This is an alternate reality where Xavier would end up becoming the new Shadow King, and as such the X-Men would be led instead by their co-founder in this reality, Magneto. Here, Havoc is also the only surviving member of the Summers family. We first see Mari and Brian in the Mutant X series, where they are kidnapped by Sabretooth and later have to be saved by their father. Number 4. Scout. Scout was formerly known as Honey Badger and is a clone of Wolverine. She was also created using Wolverine's genetic material and that of geneticist Sarah Kinney. She is one of 10 clones created in this vein who are often referred to as the Sisters. Gabrielle Kinney, or Gabby, was created by Alchemex Genetics and was trained and used as a bodyguard to be sent out on missions. Her and her sisters were made to feel no pain, which sometimes gives her a strange edge in comparison to some of Wolverine's other children, if we're talking about power levels. Although, you know, pain is there to be felt for a reason, so.
Number 3. Squirrel Girl. Doreen Green. Alright, this one's pretty messed up. This has been speculated for a while now, and it comes down to a simple page of text. In New Avengers, issue 7, we see the two talking as if something had happened. Something rather intimate, that is. Cause see, Doreen is like, well, I hope we can agree to be professional, and Wolverine's like, why of course. Also, you look amazing. And she's like, hey, you look amazing too. So there's something there. This romance fling thing becomes more evident come Wolverine issue 8, when Emma Frost had entered Wolverine's mind and literally found a room called Sexual Fantasies. So Emma says, I know I'm gonna regret doing this, and maybe she was right. Upon opening the door, none other than Doreen Green is there herself, just hanging about.
Number 2. Daken. Daken's original name was Akihiro. He is a mutant natural-born son of Wolverine and his wife Itsu. Itsu herself was very pregnant with Logan's child when she was murdered by Bucky Barnes during his time as the assassin known as Winter Soldier. It was later revealed that Itsu's unborn child did not perish, but was instead cut out of Itsu's womb and retrieved by the villain Romulus. Romulus later left the baby on the doorstep of a wealthy Japanese family, who took the baby in and raised him as their own. own. The family named him Akihiro, but the servants referred to him as Daken, meaning mongrel, because of his mixed racial appearance. Romulus would later reveal himself to the boy after everything kinda went sideways, claiming to be him from the future and attempting to use and manipulate Daken for his own purposes. Daken and his father, considering his backstory as such, have had a rocky relationship throughout the comics, and Daken is often painted as a villain or a reluctant anti-hero. Number 1. X-23, also known really as just Wolverine. She and her dad are both Wolverine, really. Laura Kinney is technically the genetic twin of Wolverine. She was created when Facility tried to create a clone of Weapon X to use, well, as a weapon. Sarah Kinney, an acclaimed geneticist, was brought in when Xander Rice failed to replicate the adamantium bonding procedure on any of his subjects, who all died during the process. The genetic sample that Sarah was attempting to use to clone Wolverine with was damaged, which prompted her to suggest making a female clone instead of reconstructing the genetic sample artificially, which would take years. When Dr. Sutter and Xander Rice refused to agree with Kinney that this was the best way to proceed, she rebelled and decided to go against their wishes, moving forward with her version of the project. In the end, she was forced into being the surrogate mother for baby Laura and regretted her earlier views of seeing this being as only a weapon, instead of the true miracle of life that it was. Laura would grow up to be X-23 and would eventually escape the facility and track down her genetic father, Wolverine. Number 10. Sisters. The Sisters were a group of clones that Gabrielle Kinney was a part of. Altogether, including Gabby, there were 10 of them. They were created by Alchemax using samples of DNA from both Logan and Sarah Kinney, Laura aka X-23's mother. They were each known as a new numbered clone for X-23. Zelda was the oldest and the leader. With the sisters, the elders usually protected the younger clones, with Gabby being one of the youngest and often receiving the most protection from the other sisters. Alchemax intended to create them to be used as bodyguards, but they eventually escaped and sought to get revenge on their captors, running into Laura Kinney, who was Wolverine at the time, and who initially questioned their motives. Number 9. Fire Knives. On part 1 of this list we talked about some of the mongrels, but there was someone that we did not mention. Fire Knives is a daughter of Wolverine. We don't know much about her, not knowing her true name or the name of her mother or who exactly her mother was. What we do know is that Daken recruited her to join a team known as the Mongrels, whose name was likely inspired by the name Daken had taken, which means mongrel in Japanese, a cruel name that his adopted parents' servants referred to him by, due to his mixed appearance. The Mongrels were a group used against Wolverine by the organization known as the Red Right Hand, all of whose members had a vendetta against him. We don't know if Fire Knives had any superhuman abilities or was a mutant like her father, but we do know that she was a skilled martial artist and a combatant. It's also possible, considering her own fiery red locks, that her mother was a redhead, which Logan tends to have a weakness and fondness for, like many other characters in comics too. Seems to be a pattern in the comics world. Redheads, we like redheads. Number 8. Hulk Jr. This is the child that Old Man Logan adopted after defeating the Banner clan, who in turn had killed Logan's family after they got tired of waiting for him to return with the rent money. When Logan of Earth 807128 had discovered they had killed his family, he went into a rage, killing everyone except for little Hulk Jr., the original Hulk, Bruce Banner's favorite and newest member of the gang. Baby Bruce was then adopted by Old Man Logan, joining him on his adventures, with Logan vowing to raise him as his own son and teach him how to be a hero. Sophist. All we think we know is that Sophist is likely Mexican. He is also a member of the Mongrels. Once again, we do not know his mother's name or his name. We know that he wears a luchador mask and enjoys shouting out battle cries in Spanish though. He often fought with a chainsaw strapped to his arm, hence his mantle of Sophist. Number 6. Kuan. Kuan is Wolverine's young clone who is from the alternate Earth of 13119. He first appeared in the Savage Wolverine series, where we were both introduced to him and also watched him die. What's rare in comparison to the reality of Earth 616 is that Kuan was a male clone, whereas many of the Wolverine clones we've seen have been female. He was sent after Logan to help retrieve, or potentially kill and retrieve, his body for a mysterious organization that is never revealed. Instead, the two of them end up teaming up.
Number 5. Seraph. This one comes from Wolverine Origins Annual number 1. Her name was Seraph, and she was really something else. She had taught Logan how to kill, and he enjoyed killing people for her. Kind of the perfect pair, if you ask me. She was ruthless to most, but to him, she was gentle. Yeah, for a 1920s relationship, this one was pretty spicy. I mean, Logan carved trees for her. He was romantic. But there was more to her than Logan had thought. I mean, after all, he says, why would this woman that I loved so much lie to me? Then in Wolverine issue 126, he looks back and reflects on their relationship and how she was killed sadly by Sabretooth. Another love lost to time.
Number 4, Wild Thing. Wild Thing is Rena Logan, the daughter of Wolverine and of Elektra from the alternate Earth of 982. The reality of Earth 982 has the Age of Heroes, the big boom of superheroic activity on Earth, happening 15 years earlier in comparison to the main continuity of Earth 616, meaning a lot of our heroes from the main continuity in this reality are retired or simply older now, such is the case for Rena's parents. Rena is a high schooler when we meet her who is trying to balance the lifestyle of being a hero with that of being a teenager. Her abilities are similar to her father's, but instead of bone claws, she has psychic claws. She is also an insanely skilled martial artist, having been trained by both her father and her mother, so not someone you want to mess with. Number 3, Jimmy Hudson. Jimmy is the son of Wolverine from the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610. He was adopted by James Hudson, who promised to take care of Wolverine's newborn son after the two fought together in Iraq and Wolverine died. Jimmy's last name was changed, and he was raised without ever knowing about his father, or that he was likely a mutant. When he was a teenager, his power manifested, and it was only then that he learned of his true origins. Number 2, Kirika Yoshida. From the Age of Apocalypse alternate Earth of 295, we have the daughter that Mariko Yoshida and Wolverine never got to have in the main continuity reality verse 616, Kirika Yoshida. So many alternate Mariko and Wolverine children. I love it. Mariko and Logan, aka Weapon X, took different sides following the rise of Apocalypse. Weapon X joined Apocalypse and the side of mutants, while Mariko allied herself with the Human High Council. As such, Kirika was somehow lost and I don't know, she became the prisoner of Mr. Sinister somehow. She was later retrieved from his labs after Apocalypse's defeat, where she had been labeled as X-23. Kirika has claws like her father and seems to have his superhuman senses as well. Number 1, Raze Darkholme. Raze is the son of Wolverine and Mystique from the alternate reality of Earth 13729. This alternate timeline saw an alternate Wolverine become headmaster of the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning. It is also the home to a new brotherhood of evil mutants led by Charles's and Mystique's son, Charles Xavier II, and his half-brother Raze. Raze first appeared impersonating Kitty Pryde in X-Men Battle of the Atom issue number 1 in order to get closer to Wolverine so that he could take him out. We also learned that Raze killed his mother, whom he then took the place of. He has both the combined powers of Wolverine and Mystique, and is even believed to be a more powerful and skilled shapeshifter than his mother. Wow.
Starting us off in at number 10, Carol Danvers. No one really wanted Peter Parker and Carol Danvers to be a thing, but that's still what we got. And in Ms. Marvel Volume 2 issue 34, Peter asks Carol out, which she said yes to since he had helped her when she was depowered. Tad forceful of him. Then in issue 47 of her solo series, the two of them actually went out on a date at an upscale restaurant, and it is pretty painful to watch, until the date is interrupted by supervillains, thank god. The pair take them out, then end up eating chili dogs on a roof that overlooks the city. Later it would continue to get weird between the two of them when they teamed up to fight Mac Gargan's Venom. But quite frankly, we're really glad this relationship never really hit the ground running. It's definitely one we can do without. In at number 9, Spider-Gwen. Okay, so I know we said we wouldn't be talking about alternates of Gwen Stacy with Peter Parker, but this alternate of Gwen had her sights set on a different man in the Spider-Man mantle. We're talking Miles Morales. Spider-Gwen is the Gwen Stacy aka Spider-Woman of Earth 65. Now under the Marvel Now line, she and Miles would get romantically involved with one another. And side note, their Earth 8 alternates even got married. They starred in a story titled Sitting in a Tree, in which their two titles crossed over and made for a story that had our hearts pitter-pattering all the way through. I mean, how could you not ship them? They're so cute together. I mean, unless you're actually one of those people who shipped Miles and Kamala Khan, in which case I am very sorry for your loss. Up next, number 8, Rogue. In the world of X-Men Forever, which takes place on Earth 161, we got to see a romance blossom between Spider-Man and Rogue. This Rogue had absorbed Nightcrawler's powers, which also changed her to look a lot more like him physically, which did not bode well with her. After that went down, she found herself crossing paths with Spider-Man after dealing with a robbery in New York. Feeling a little lost, she decided to spend the night with him, accompanying him on his patrol, which led to sparks between the two. They actually almost kissed, and would've if it wasn't for being interrupted by the screams of a nearby Jean Grey. In at 7, Carly Cooper. Carly Cooper is another exception on our list. She first appeared in the 2008 Amazing Spider-Man issue 545. She's a forensic specialist who ended up dating Peter after he and MJ broke up after the One More Day story event. Now the two of them had a bit of a slow burn flirtation before they finally went out on a date together. Eventually though, she would figure out that Peter was Spider-Man, and growing tired of his lies to her, she broke up with him. While she wasn't a superhero when they were dating, she would eventually become a villain briefly, operating under the name of Monster, gaining powers from the Goblin formula that gave her superhuman strength, speed, and stamina. Up next, number 6, Betty Brant. Betty Brant is a civilian character that Peter has dated in the past. She first appeared in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 4 in 1963, dated Peter briefly, but then would go on to date Flash Thompson. But once upon a time, in What If Volume 1 issue 17, she was actually a superhero, appearing in the story What If the Radioactive Spider Had Bitten Someone Else. As you can imagine, in this hypothetical tale, Peter was not bitten by the radioactive spider, but Betty was, giving her his powers. She confides in the civilian Peter, and he begins to assist her, essentially acting as a sidekick of sorts to her Spider-Woman, or rather, the Amazing Spider-Girl as she preferred to be called. And at one point she fails to stop a criminal from escaping, which leads to the death of Peter's Uncle Ben. Now because of this, she gives up fighting crime altogether, but Peter still goes on to become Spider-Man, with synthetic powers of course. Moving on to number 5, Marrow. Mutant Marrow and Spider-Man had a brief entanglement after Marrow was brainwashed to be a sleeper agent for S.H.I.E.L.D. Operating under the alias Sarah Rushman, which, fun fact, was a previous alias of Black Widow's, she had a bit of a split personality, in which Marrow would terminate life model decoys, and then Sarah was a college kid at Empire State University. That's where she developed a crush on Peter, who was lecturing there, and the two ended up going out on a few dates before he realized who she truly was. Eventually that would dissipate, with Parker helping her break free from S.H.I.E.L.D.'s control by faking her own suicide in a Spider-Man Marrow one-shot crossover from 2001. Up next at 4, Silk. Silk, aka Cindy Moon, first hit the scene in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 1 volume 3. The character was bitten by the same radioactive spider as Peter was, but from there on out suffered a different kind of tragic origin story than what Parker had endured. She was kidnapped and forced to train inside of a bunker, where she was held captive by a mysterious man named Ezekiel in an attempt to hide her from Morlun, who was killing off spider-powered peeps. Eventually Peter learned of her existence, and when she was free, the two couldn't help but notice that they were super attracted to one another, unnaturally so. It was intense. Turns out it was actually a product of their pheromones, with the two of them overcome by primal urges to jump each other's bones. They eventually had to part ways because these urges were just too strong and too overwhelming, hindering their efforts to fight crime and just exist. Cindy would go on to begin her own costume superhero career separate of Peter. In at number 3, Kitty Pryde. Peter's relationship with Kitty Pryde isn't one that took place in the 616 universe, but rather on Earth 1610 in the Ultimate Universe. During Ultimate Comics Spider-Man, Kitty develops a crush on Peter when Spider-Man and the X-Men team up in Queens to take down the Latverian mutant Geldof. After being charmed by the web slinger, Kitty asked him out on a date. Over the course of their relationship, they would work together to take on villains, and eventually Peter started to feel some tension about the fact that Kitty's X-Men persona was way more public versus the secret identity that he had been striving to maintain. Eventually though, the two break up, which did not go smoothly. But luckily over time they made amends, with them even becoming good friends after the fact. In at number 2, Silver Sable. A sometimes antagonist, sometimes ally of Spider-Man's, Silver Sable, who was introduced in 1985's The Amazing Spider-Man issue 265, has never hooked up romantically with Peter in the 616, but there's certainly been lots of tension and flirtation to say the least. But we did get to see a glimpse of what that underlying sexual tension could amount to in What If Volume 2 issue 21, which was titled What If Spider-Man Had Married the Black Cat. Now in this story, Black Cat is accidentally murdered by Paladin, and Spider-Man ends up getting romantically involved with Silver Sable in the aftermath. They both bond over the grief they share of their dead loved ones. By the end, it is a bit ambiguous as to whether or not their relationship worked out in the long run. And last but not least, speaking of, we have Black Cat at number 1. Black Cat, aka Felicia Hardy, may have originally been a villain of Spider-Man's, now an anti-hero, but if anything, her criminality made the romantic relationship between her and Peter Parker that much more steamier. Created by Marv Wolfman and Keith Pollard in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 194, Felicia actually chose to become more of an anti-hero because of her relationship with Spider-Man, even becoming his partner for a while. Although she didn't care much for Peter Parker the civilian, she was way more into Spider-Man the vigilante, and one of the reasons why the two would split up up was because of this. Now they've had an on-again, off-again relationship over the years, with Black Cat working as one of Spidey's biggest allies at their best, and her slipping back into the life of a criminal when they've been at their worst. Although that relationship between the two of them may have been tipped permanently into negative land, thanks to Otto Octavius running around in Peter's body as the superior Spider-Man, having broken Black Cat's teeth and abandoned her for the police to pick up. Definitely something that would make someone not want to be into you. Just saying.
Number 10. Spider-Man. While Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman and Peter Parker's Spider-Man aren't really a match made in heaven in any regards. In fact, at times Jessica finds Peter kinda grating and Peter finds Jessica a bit too intense. Jessica Drew hasn't been the only one to take up the Spider-Woman mantle. For a time, while her powers were inconsistent, after having been lost, returned, and then stolen and slowly recovering them over time, she actually bequeathed the name to another superpowered young woman, Maddie Franklin. Maddie became known for a time as Spider-Woman in Jessica's stead after being granted superpowers of her own. She also ended up becoming enamored with one Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. At one point, Spider-Man gives Maddie his Spider-Woman CPR, and she uses the opportunity to kiss him. This was during a time when Mary Jane was MIA and believed dead. In fact, that's like the previous issue to this kiss. However, despite MJ possibly being dead, Peter felt super uncomfortable with the romance and ultimately rejected Spider-Woman, even going so far as to have her memory wiped when it came to the truth of his secret identity. He felt that the age difference between them was too great, and also that his secret was too big a burden for someone so young to carry. Plus, he wasn't convinced that Mary Jane was truly dead, holding out hope that she was alive and would somehow be saved in return. Turned out he was right, by the way, that did end up happening. Still, that rejection of young Maddie was pretty harsh. Memory wiped? Woo, ouch. I know she's young, but geez, that would mess me up. I mean, I guess you won't remember it because your mind was wiped, so there's that. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to learn about more Spider-Woman love interests or just Spidey love interests in general, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 9. Morlun. Okay, so really this isn't Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman specifically, but it definitely looked like her. On Loom World, Jessica Drew's doppelganger was actually a lover of the inheritor and villain Morlun. As such, this odd coincidence actually allowed Jessica Drew to infiltrate Loom World to get valuable intel on the Inheritors and the Master Weaver. This intel would help the Spider Army to defeat the Inheritors and save the day, making the fact that she was forced to kiss Morlun worth it, I'm sure. I mean, at least I hope it was worth it. Oddly enough, although Jessica was not great at going undercover as her doppelganger, who by all regards was pretty much a big jerky jerk on this world, she still managed to get what she needed, utilizing her pheromones to distract from inconsistencies and prove that all in all, Spider-Woman is actually a really great spy, even when she has no plan and is kind of flying by the seat of her pants. Improvisational spy times. Number 8. David Ashima. David was Jessica Drew aka Spider-Woman's landlord when she was living in San Francisco with her good friend Lindsay McCabe. I love Lindsay. I'm so glad that she's returned in the comics. David and Jessica hit it off and began dating. However, the relationship didn't last as eventually David Ashima discovered that Jessica Drew was secretly Spider-Woman, also known in San Fran as the Dark Angel of San Francisco. This was all too much for David, and the two ended up calling it quits on their relationship. However, it should be noted that this whole ordeal would not stop David from later asking out Kitty Pryde when some of the X-Men came to visit Jessica. Number 7. Shroud. Shroud was the love interest of Julia Carpenter's Spider-Woman. While this Spider-Woman was also married at one point, her husband and her ended up getting divorced, with him getting custody of their daughter, Rachel, due to Julia's unexplained absences as a result of her secret life as the hero, Spider-Woman. The Shroud and Spider-Woman would fall in love when he helped her after she had lost her powers. It was Shroud who helped restore them and also helped Julia to recover from being paralyzed with physical therapy. Unfortunately, the romance wouldn't last, but even after they broke up, the Shroud refused to let Julia go and began stalking her in an attempt to get back together with her because he believed it would help him, fix his life. Yeah, that didn't end well. Julia was like, don't stalk me. Stop that. I'm gonna lay a trap for you. Number 6. Captain Marvel. Carol is really just Jessica Drew's best friend forever, but despite them being the facts, there are still a ton of people who ship these two together as, Well, as more than friends. The chemistry between Jessica Drew and Carol Danvers is really great, which is what makes it easy to accept that they are the best of friends, but some see that there could be more to these two than just a very close friendship. And I cannot deny myself, if either of these women decided that they wanted to date women, you know, they would actually be seemingly pretty perfectly matched for each other. There are times when Carol and Jessica in the comics even sound like an old bickering married couple, and then there are other times where they are so kind, considerate, loving, and loyal to each other that you could believe that they were like divine soulmates. So although this is a ship that isn't completely real or anything, I gotta say, I kinda like it. I kinda like it as a ship, which is why I included it. So if you ship those two as more than friends, that's alright. I stand by it. Put it in your fanfics. Number 5. Jerry Hunt. Jerry Hunt was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. who stumbled upon Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman when she was using her powers as a thief, just trying to survive and get by. Or well, she tried to be a thief briefly and then she was like, actually I shouldn't do this. I'll just be a hero instead, even though that doesn't pay anything. Oh boy, how am I gonna eat food? Coming across her path, Jerry managed to unmask Spider-Woman and found her appearance to be familiar. After he was injured, Jessica saved his life, and as he lay recovering at the end of that very first issue of Spider-Woman from the 1970s, he claimed that for whatever reason, he wanted that woman. He wasn't sure if he wanted to catch her or he wanted to love her, but boy oh boy did he want her. Jerry would later recall where he'd seen Jessica before in S.H.I.E.L.D. files where he saw her back in her Hydra days. Eventually, Jerry would end up finding Spider-Woman again, and for a time the two would even date. Jerry would also become an ally to Spider-Woman, helping her fight against villains and even trying to help her learn more about her own mysterious past. In the end, they would decide to break up when Jerry had to go back to London for work. Jess, you see, would rather stay put, and so that was the end of their romance. Number 4. Norman Osborn. For the daughter of Spider-Man, Spider-Woman May Mayday Parker, she'd actually end up falling in love with the descendant of a rival family, the Osborns. It's like a Romeo and Juliet love story. I mean, maybe the Osborns also isn't a rival family, but they're at least a complicated family in regards to their relation to the Parkers, truth be told. There were both good and awful memories there. Normie Osborn, Norman Osborn's grandson and Harry Osborn's son, became May's friend and ally after she saw the tragedy in him when he was Green Goblin and actually helped to reform him. He would end up married to another reformed villain and ally, Brenda Drago, the daughter of the second Vulture. However, before that came to pass, May revealed that she had feelings for Normie. Although he rejected her, citing their 4-year age difference and the fact that her father would freak as reasons, it was later revealed that Normie actually did have feelings for May, when we saw into his comatose visions, where Normie was haunted by his grandfather, Norman Osborn, who hounded him for falling in love with the girl. Also, Normie did really like May, but they couldn't be together. It wasn't meant to be. Number 3. Hawkeye. Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman and Clint Barton's Hawkeye ended up getting together as a result of their time on the Avengers. They both developed feelings for one another and decided to start dating. However, due to some misinterpretation of the boundaries of that relationship, the two ended up calling it quits. Clint thought that he and Jess were keeping things casual, and he ended up having a one-night stand with somebody else outside of the relationship, which Jessica was not happy about when she found out, because she thought things were more serious between them and more monogamous. It also ended on a not so great note, as Jess, upset and hurt, lashed out by physically hitting Clint. Also, let's remember that Jess does have super strength, though I'm sure she wasn't using it there, but still, that makes this moment like even more worse in my mind. Both Clint and Jess made mistakes when it came to the whole situation between them, but fortunately, they were eventually able to move on and become friends again, though awkward moments still arise between the two as a result of this relationship. Number 2. Spider-Man. Obviously, we are once again switching up Spider-Womans for a moment. Although Gwen Stacy of Verse 65 is now known as Ghost Spider, there was a time when she too went by Spider-Woman. She has been known as Spider-Gwen most prominently from a reader standpoint, but within the narrative, Spider-Woman and Ghost Spider are more common names for that character. This alternate version of 616's Gwen Stacy ends up falling in love with a different Spider-Man other than Peter Parker. She is more known for her relationship with and love of Earth 1610's Miles Morales, aka Spider-Man. In In fact, there is even an alternate future where these two end up together, settle down, and they have kids. In that reality, they are both heroes and also kind of celebrities because of their heroics. Number 1. Porcupine. Roger Gawking is a fan favorite when it comes to Jessica Drew's romances. He was once the villain Porcupine who ended up becoming involved in a case that Jessica was investigating as a PI. The spouses, paramours, and villains had been kidnapped and were being kept safe in exchange for ransom money that the villains were forced to pay. When Jessica went to investigate, she found a community of villains' loved ones who were essentially pretending they had been kidnapped in exchange for money, as many of them were victims of abuse at the hands of said villains. In the end, Jessica helped to resolve this conflict while still protecting the community of victims. Roger would go on to become an ally and friend to Jess, and also act as her babysitter after her son Jerry was born. Eventually, it would be revealed that Roger had feelings for Jess, and after believing he'd been killed only to find out he'd actually survived, the two shared a kiss, with Jess confirming that she also had feelings for Roger. More recently in the comics, Jess's busy heroic life, as well as her inability to see Roger as her equal, caused the two of them to break things off. Or more specifically, Roger to dump Jessica. I gotta say though, I kinda get it. I feel like Jessica did not have a lot of time for Roger. Poor Roger. Hopefully they can get back together, maybe? Again, maybe? Not caught up with my Spider-Woman right now, so if they're back together, please don't tell me. I don't want any spoilers. A few issues behind, friends. Number 10. Cosmic Baby. Or Uni Baby. Or Uni Power Baby. Or just May Parker if you want. Because, you know, all of Peter and MJ's babies have to either be a May or a Ben. Mary Jane's family, I guess, is just so much of a disappointment that she does not feel inclined to name babies after them. I mean, her family life was pretty wild, so like I kinda understand why she's just cool naming kids after Peter's aunt and uncle, but MJ also had a pretty cool aunt, Aunt Anna, so I feel like there should actually be more multiversal kids named after her too. Anyways, the reason why I'm focusing so much on the name here is because we don't actually know much more than that when it comes to this baby. Baby May hails from a what-if story where Peter keeps the Unipower instead of giving it up, or the Enigma Force if you will. Even in this story though, he does eventually give it up. He just keeps it a lot longer. It's also implied that because he had it so long, it gets passed on to his and MJ's baby daughter, May Parker. So even though she isn't there yet, this alternate baby has some of the greatest potential when it comes to power levels. Number 9. Benji. Benji is the little brother of May Parker and the youngest child of the Parker family in the MC2 universe of Earth 982. Benji actually began to display powers at a very young age, and as such was basically a superpowered little baby. Ben would become bonded to the Carnage symbiote when he was still a little tyke, but fortunately his sister May Parker saved him using a sonic weapon to separate him from the Carnage symbiote. Unfortunately, this also caused damage to Ben's very sensitive baby ears, which left him deaf for a time. I actually think that that whole element of this story was really interesting, and I think it would have been cool to see Benji grow up deaf and even still become a superhero like his sister and his dad before him. However, he would later have his hearing restored by May's good friend Normie Osborn, the grandson of Green Goblin and son of Harry Osborn and Liz Allen Osborn. Benji has displayed spider-like abilities including wall crawling, spider sense, and even the rare ability to generate organic webbing. And friends, before we move on to our next spot, if you are loving this list and you are loving the channel, be sure to head on over to Facebook to show your support for us over there. Number 8. Claire Parker. Claire Parker is the daughter of Peter Parker and Mary Jane Parker, who hails from the reality belonging to Spider-Man life story, known as Earth 19529. Here, Claire proves to be strong enough to defeat Morlun when he returns and begins to hunt down Peter and his family, killing her own Uncle Ben Reilly. Peter attempted to lure Morlun away from his kids, but was unsuccessful, and it came down to Claire and her brother Benji to defeat Morlun, which of course they did. Claire would go on to become a superhero in the next generation of heroes following her dad's time and era. Number 7. Spider-Boy. Spider-Boy hails from Earth 8, where Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales end up together. They have 2 children as a couple, and Max of course is one of them. Max's power is similar to his parents but does not possess any spider sense capabilities. He took up the name Spider-Boy when he joined up with the Amazing 8, a team of multiversal spider spider-like heroes. Max isn't alone on the team, which not only features characters outside of his universe, but also includes both his mom and his dad, Gwen and Miles of Earth 8, and of course his sister. Number 6. Spider-Girl. Spider-Girl is also the daughter of Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy on Earth 8. Her name is Charlotte, and she is also, of course, the sister of Maximilian Max Morales Stacy. While Max does not possess spider sense, Spider-Girl does, as well as a myriad of other spider-like abilities similar to her parents. Spider-Girl, along with her brother and the rest of her family, is also a member of the Amazing 8 team. The Watchers are wary of her and her brother as they fear the siblings' multiversal adventures pose a great risk to the timeline. Which, honestly, fair enough. Multiversal shenanigans, I feel like, are always posing great risks to the timeline. Number 5. Jerry Drew. Coming in with the Zappies, it's baby Jerry. Jerry is actually the son of Jessica Drew, aka Spider-Woman, not Spider-Man, but still, Jessica is considered to be a Spider-Man alternate, despite being one of the most separated characters from Spider-Man in terms of her origin. In fact, canonically, in the world of 616, you could even say that Spider-Man would be considered an alternate of her. While Spider-Man first appeared in the 60s in the comics, canonically, Jessica is older than Peter and would therefore have gotten powers kind of before him, although a main difference is that Jessica spent much of her childhood in a tube, removed from the world, and even after that was kind of like a secret agent of Hydra's for a time, before managing to escape her role working for them and becoming a hero and a PI. Jerry is her first and currently only son, and while he's still a little baby, he has already started to exhibit powers similar to Jessica, including his own baby-sized venom blasts, super strength and agility, and the ability to wall crawl. So a lot of potential for Jerry to follow in his mom's footsteps and possibly become even more skilled and powerful than she is. Number 4. May Parker. May Parker is of course another alternate reality version of Peter and MJ's daughter. As I said, the name May really does stick for them across the multiverse when it comes to their kids. This version of May comes from the Dark Ages reality, which isn't officially numbered yet, but does have a temporary number of Earth 891 for now. May in this reality is only a little kid when her powers first manifest. She has powers similar to her MC2 counterpart and of course similar to Peter's, including his famed spider sense. We get to watch May grow up somewhat in this reality, and she develops a close friendship with Danny Cage, the daughter of heroes Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. Although in that reality I believe Jessica is now she's Jessica Cage, because I mean they're married, but yeah. If I say Jessica Cage, I feel like people are gonna be like, who's Jessica Cage? Because we all know her as Jessica Jones still. Number 3. Venom. Venom is the daughter of Peter and Mary Jane, who hails from the reality of Earth X, aka Earth 9997. Eventually, May Parker ends up bonded to the Venom symbiote in this reality. Its origins are a little different as it was created, like many other things in this reality, by the Celestials. They created symbiotes to protect the embryos that they had stored within planets. So yeah, a bit different. However, despite their origins not being quite the same, the Venom symbiote here still has similar powers and abilities, and even a similar appearance somewhat to their 616 counterpart. Although they tend to be more black and red, and the Venom symbiote tends to be more white and black. In the Earth X reality, at some point after the death of May's mother, MJ, the Venom symbiote left Eddie Brock and bonded with May Parker, who also was trained by her uncle, Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. Pretty cool stuff. Not only does she have her Venom symbiote and spider-like powers inherited from her dad, but she also has fighting skills passed down from DD, which is pretty cool. Number 2. Mayday. While little uni-powered baby May might have some of the greatest potential, when it comes to actual feats of strength and powers that we've seen on display, Mayday probably takes the cake, just because she is one of the kids we've seen the most of. She is the daughter of Peter Parker and his wife Mary Jane Watson Parker from the MC2 reality. May Parker grows up to inherit her dad's powers in this reality, meaning that she too can wall crawl, has the proportional strength of a spider, possesses spider sense, and is extremely agile. In fact, while it's believed that May isn't as strong as her dad, she is believed to be even more agile and dexterous than him. So when it comes to her sense of balance and nimbleness, she actually beats Peter in this one regard. Number 1. Spiderling. Spiderling is Anna May Parker, nicknamed Annie, who comes from the Renew Your Vows universe, which became so popular that it got its own spin-off series as well as its own piece of patchwork reality in God Emperor Doom's Battle World Tapestry that was showcased face during Secret Wars. Confirmed! God Emperor Doom is a shipper of Peter and MJ and thinks that they should have stayed married. We've confirmed it. He's like, I'm here for renew your vows. That can be in my battle world. Annie, like her father, develops spider-like powers and abilities. And while we've seen the most of Mayday and she is likely the most popular of the alternate reality kids, I'd even suggest that Annie is more powerful as she has a more specific version of spider sense that basically allows her to see what potential danger is actually setting it off, giving her a sort of future sense, if you will, making her kind of a precog. Aside from that, she has not just her dad to guide her in heroics, but her mom as well, as in this universe, Mary Jane has powers of her own, taking up the superhero name of Spinneret. Mary Jane in this reality even at one point bonds with the Venom symbiote. Pretty crazy, especially considering MJ616's history with Venom. Also, guess what? I'm pretty sure Anna May is actually, one of the kids is actually named after MJ's Aunt Anna. So this is both aunt names combined, which I think is fair because both Aunt Anna and Aunt May are cool people. Number 10, Ben Parker. Ben and May, by the way, are going to be names you'll get familiar with on this list. So to start off with each point, I'm going to try to clarify just which Ben and which May we're talking about. This Ben is from the Spider-Man Limited series written by J.J. Abrams and his son Henry. It's known as the 2019 Just Spider-Man series, or Spider-Man Volume 3. Here Ben was a young boy when his mother Mary Jane Watson was murdered by the villain known as Cadaverous. His father Peter, distraught, retired as Spider-Man and abandoned his son, leaving him to be raised by what should be a super elderly Aunt May at this point. Aunt May raised Ben as she had Peter and eventually gave him his father's costume, which he then wore to impress his classmate Faye Ito, or Ito Faye, depending on how you want to say it, Japanese way or American way. But when Cadaverous resurfaced, Ben also wore this suit to fight against him, possessing the same powers as his dad. Number 9, May Parker. This May Parker comes to us from Universe X, from the reality of Earth 1122. She first appeared in Universe X issue X. Yep, weird lettered issue. I don't like that. Her past is similar to that of another alternate daughter of Spidey's, but with one possible difference. It's implied that she is actually the daughter of clone Ben Reilly and not Peter himself. Her mother is Mary Jane, however, implying that Ben and MJ maybe had a thing, maybe while she was with Peter. We don't really know. She has similar powers to that of Spider-Man and ends up joining X-51 superhero team composed of different heroes from alternate realities known as the Heralds. You can check out the Heralds team in the Paradise X Herald series. Number 8, Spider-Woman. Ashley Barton is technically Spider-Man's granddaughter, but is still a grandchild of his, so still a child of Spider-Man. See what I did? And she is super cool, so I had to include her. She made her first appearance in 2003's Wolverine series issue 67 and comes to us from the Old Man Logan universe of Earth 807128. She is the daughter of Peter Parker's youngest daughter, Tonya, and Hawkeye. Yeah, try not to focus too much on the potential age difference there. Feels a little wince-inducing. Ashley attempted to take over Hammer Falls and usurp Kingpin's rule there, but she was captured. Old Man Hawkeye later rescued her, only for her to try and kill him, surprisingly. She appears to have powers similar to those of Spider-Man. It's kind of a weird point to finish it on, but whatever, Amanda, that's what you wrote. Number 7, Richie Parker. Richie Parker comes to us from the House of M reality. We've seen 2 different versions of him from different realities, and it's implied that Richard Parker II would grow up to exhibit superpowers similar to his father's, potentially even being able to produce organic webbing in addition to Peter's usual power set. Rather than being the son of Mary Jane and Peter, Richie is the son of Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker. There is a version of him with powers in What If Spider-Man House of M issue number 1, and a little baby version of him in the series Spider-Man House of M. Number 6, Venom. This May Parker comes to us from the reality of Earth 9997. That would be the universe of Earth X. She first appeared in 1999's Earth X series in issue number 1. She is also the daughter of Peter Parker and Mary Jane, like so many of these kids. However, her mother died of cancer when she was younger. Her powers manifested when she was just a teen and are similar to her father's. But May also has the powers granted to her by the alien symbiote known as Venom, whom she is bonded to. Initially, the Venom symbiote sought her out after leaving an elderly Eddie Brock, hoping to continue its vengeful pursuits against May's father and turn her against him. May's willpower and spider sense proved too powerful for the symbiote though, and so its plan did not work. Instead, she bent the being to her will and used the symbiote for her own heroic means. But she still goes by the name Venom, which I like. Number 5. Benji Parker. Benji is one of Peter's children with Mary Jane from the reality of Earth 19529. He first appeared in Spider-Man Life Story issue number 3 and was created by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley. In this reality, Mary Jane gave birth to twins and left Peter shortly after they were born. Not being able to deal with the fact that Peter led 2 lives, one is Peter Parker and one is the hero Spider-Man. Benji was likely mostly estranged from his father for a good amount of his childhood, as Mary Jane took her children with her when she left Peter and raised them near Portland, Oregon. But Benji would reconnect with his dad when he was 11. Number 4. Claire Parker. Claire is the twin sister to Benji. She also first appeared in Spider-Man Life Story issue number 3. Later on in their lives, her family would be tormented by the villain known as Morlun, who killed their Uncle Ben shortly after Claire had returned home after finishing college. Peter hoped to lure Morlun away from his family by returning to New York, but instead Morlun chose this opportunity to strike on Peter's kids. He attempted to devour Claire's life energy, but she managed to fend him off by attacking him while he fed. Benji came up with a theory that Morlun was actually more vulnerable to being attacked while feeding, and came up with a plan to use himself as bait so that Claire could defeat him. This plan actually worked, but it also left Benji permanently injured, causing him to have to walk with a cane for the rest of his life. Number 3. Spiderling. Anna Mae Annie Parker is from the Earth of 18119. She made her first appearance in 2015's Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows issue number 1. Her Earth was revealed to be one of the alternates condensed and weirdly preserved in God Emperor Doom's battle world following the incursions. The reality was transformed into the domain known as the Regency. In this alternate reality, Annie was the daughter of Mary Jane and Peter and developed spider-like abilities similar to her father's. Her spider sense also grants her a kind of future vision, and as such is considered more involved and more powerful than Peter's. Number 2. Little Benjamin Benji Parker. This Ben Parker, fondly referred to by his sister as Benji, first appeared in 1998's Spider-Girl in issue 59. You know what that means. He is the little brother of Mayday Parker. Benji showed signs of powers very early on. He bonded with the Carnage symbiote when he was just a little toddler, and May had to use sonic waves to separate the symbiote from him. Because he was so small, his eardrums actually burst, giving him hearing loss and making him deaf, which May felt awful about and super responsible for. Even without his hearing though, Benji was still a perfectly happy little boy. He would later recover his hearing, but after bonding with the symbiote, it was believed that the experience may have altered Benji's physiology somehow. His powers began to surface shortly afterward, leaving him crawling on ceilings and walls and manifesting and using his own super strong organic webbing. It's believed Benji could even grow up become a more powerful hero than both his sister and his father. Number 1. Mayday Parker. May Parker, aka Spider-Girl, aka Spider-Woman, is one of the most famous of Spider-Man's kids. She is from the alternate reality of Earth 982 and first appeared in the 1989 What If series in issue 105. The story she was featured in sought to answer the question, what if Mary Jane had never lost the baby and Spider-Man had a Spider-Girl? People loved Mayday so much that she would later get her own series, Spider-Girl, which would have a 100-issue run. Pretty impressive. Like her little brother, she is of course the daughter of Mary Jane and Peter. She shares her father's abilities, but she isn't quite as physically strong as he is. However, she does have enhanced agility and spider sense, which more than makes up for that slight difference in strength. 3, Cheetah. In the Justice League animated series, Cheetah and Batman have a really weird, sexy moment together. Master of Seduction, Batman, is obviously meant to be playing Cheetah here, and she totally falls for it, sealing their newfound respect for one another with a kiss. It is also heavily implied here that Batman has a cat fetish. I'll let you be the judge on that one, though I suspect there might actually be something more to that bit than it just being something you say to manipulate a cat lady like Cheetah. Number 2, Ra's al Ghul. Am I gonna talk about this weird kiss? Well, you bet I'm gonna. We are talking about weird Batman ships and relationships. This has to be one of the weirdest ones out there. Honestly, if you think Batman and Robin are weird, this is on the same level as that. Barbara Gordon is also known as Batgirl, a member of the Bat family and Batman's protege and sidekick. She's also known for being the longtime love interest of Dick Grayson, who to Batman is like a son. She is also known for being the daughter of Commissioner Jim Gordon, Batman's colleague and his friend. And yet, outside the main continuity, Batman and Batgirl have slept together and had a relationship. At one point in Batman Beyond 2.0, the digital comic series, Bruce even got Babs pregnant while Dick was out of town in a flashback story. Awkward for so many reasons. While it's important to consider this is an alternate universe and many people therefore don't consider it to be canon, it's still, in my mind, pretty weird and messed up that Bab is part of a love triangle featuring both Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne. What do you think are some of Batman's best romances? What do you think are some of the weirdest? Are there any seemingly strange ships that you'd love to see play out in a comic, canon or otherwise? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host, Amanda McKnight. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube. Number 10, Sasha Bordeaux. I actually really like Sasha, and even her relationship with Batman, I don't mind. It's more the premise of sort of how she was introduced and got involved with Bruce Wayne. Sasha was hired on to be Bruce Wayne's bodyguard, which, like, I guess okay, but does Bruce Wayne even need a bodyguard if he's Batman? Also, is it wise to hire a bodyguard when you have a secret identity and would then need to try and sort of sneak around them to just kind of keep that identity a secret? Just seems a little strange. Sasha ended up teaming up with Batman after she discovered his secret identity, and another weird thing there is that she actually could keep up with Bats, when he usually spends years training people to be able to even keep up with him. These two had a very brief romance, which would get dropped almost as soon as it was kind of introduced to us. Number 9, Catwoman. I know what you might be thinking, but Amanda, Cat and Bat is a classic. So classic, in fact, that we even have a Batcat Black Label series going on right now at DC. And hey, I agree with you, but the fact of the matter remains that the idea of Batman, who very passionately stands up for justice, ending up with a consistent criminal and thief like Catwoman doesn't really make a ton of sense. If we go back to that original meeting, you'd actually see just how ridiculous this relationship is in theory, and how crazy it is that Catwoman was able to get away just because Batman was attracted to her. In fact, this has kind of become a weird trope in the comics where when Selina does something criminal, Batman is usually still willing to kind of let her off. Like, he'll be like, don't do that, Selina, but in the end, he's probably just gonna let her get away with it. I just mean, I don't think he would act the same way if Mr. Freeze was stealing diamonds. Do you? Number 8, Silver St. Cloud. I honestly like Bruce and Silver together. Of course, weirdness does have to come into this relationship because Batman is never allowed to be happy. Weirdness came in the form of dramatic tragedy, which, let's be honest, is looming around the corner in pretty much every relationship Batman has. The particularly strange thing here is that Batman didn't seem to see it coming at all. He had begun begun to open up to trust both Silver and his new partner, Baphomet, even thinking of perhaps retiring. Obviously, letting his guard down was a huge mistake, as it resulted in Silver's death, which really sucks, because, you know, this means that it will make it even harder for Bats to like actually let people in again in the future, as if it wasn't hard enough for him. Poor Batman, he just can't get a break. Number 7, Batwoman. The weird part of these two together is that it's never really happened. Instead, we've only got teases about this and seen that both Bruce and Zatanna definitely have feelings for one another that they never really fully commit to acting on. I mean, maybe they had a thing when they were teenagers, but that's about it. That's the weirdest thing for me, because I do feel like Bruce and Zatanna would actually make a pretty good couple together, and probably dating Zatanna would open up Batman to a whole new magical world. I mean, sure, he's dabbled in magic before, but he's never really like fully dove into that. See, I'm diving again. What's up with that? Similarly to how he seems to approach his relationship with his longtime friend and possible lover Zatanna herself. Just kind of like putting a toe in. It's not gonna fully jump in that pool. Number 6, Batwoman. But not Kate Kane Batwoman, because that would be pretty weird considering that she's gay and she's also Batman's cousin. Instead, we're talking here about Kathy Kane, the first Batwoman who was introduced in the 1950s, because people were worried Batman was turning kids gay. Oh, the shock, the horror. Wait, so is that how I ended up gay? Not only is the reasoning behind why Kathy Kane needed to show up and date Batman pretty freaking weird, but also the idea that Kathy Kane would really be interested in Batman is also a little strange. It seemed like she never really needed a partner, so the relationship there felt a little bit forced. Still, it didn't stop writers from turning Kathy into a marriage-obsessed partner in crime and in romance, because that was the 50s in comics. Everyone's like, I'll trick him into marrying me. Number 5, Julia Pennyworth. Maybe the most awkward relationship that Batman has had, if we can call it a relationship. Well, maybe not the most awkward actually, because there's been some pretty bad ones, but this one is definitely up there. Julia Pennyworth is Alfred's daughter, and she had a thing for Batman. Although he never really reciprocated the feelings, this was still a strange one. Especially the one moment when Julia kisses Batman after he saves her in front of his girlfriend Vicky Vale, who did not yet know that Bruce Wayne was Batman, making her line about approving of Julia's move where she kisses Batman, so long as the recipient wasn't Bruce Wayne, pretty awkward. Because, yeah, we all know that he is Bruce Wayne. Yikes! Number 4, Black Canary. Definitely one of the weirdest ones out there, because we usually associate Black Canary with Green Arrow, which wouldn't that cause some bad blood between Green Arrow and Batman, who are usually both on the Justice League? You bet it would. These two have been shipped together in the comics a few times. One of the strangest times, though, has to be in All-Star Batman and Robin, when they hooked up after Batman had a sexy display of his brute force and strength, which left Black Canary unable to resist him. I mean, I get that Batman is totally hot, as Black Canary calls him, and that he just helped Canary out there. He kind of like saved her. But I feel like it should take more than just that violent act for Black Canary to jump all over him. But hey, this is All-Star Batman, so no. The fact that Batman also seems to be thinking of Catwoman the whole time as well makes it a pretty awkward tumble around the smashed up docks. Goddamn, as Frank Miller would say. Number 3, Poison Ivy. If you thought the relationship between Harley Quinn and Batman or Bruce Wayne was weird on the part 1 of this list, you are not going to believe the weirdness of Poison Ivy and the Bats together on this list. These two together are just weird because there isn't a lot of consistency. It really depends on who's writing as to what kind of relationship they have. Sometimes Ivy loves Batman. Sometimes she hates him and is willing to kill him. Sometimes she's his ally, and sometimes she's a full-on criminal. I mean, I'm not against her character evolving and changing, but it's this weird back and forth as opposed to like any straight up progression or evolution that makes this one really weird for me. I'm okay if she's a relationship with Batman, but can we just like evolve that and like kind of commit to that and make that an overarching thing? And I'm okay if she's like, I want to kill Batman, but then can we just make that like more killing and overarching villainy for her? I don't know. Number 2, Becca. This one was just pretty random. Also, it relates to some of the manipulation tactics that we've seen characters like Poison Ivy use on Batman, which is both weird and also is kind of creepy. Becca was the wife of the new god Orion, son of Darkseid. Her powers basically allow her to create desire in those who turn away from love, even though Batman has actually welcomed love on more than a few occasions. I think he's just in denial about it. But anyways, her powers also apparently create desire in her as well. How convenient. Needless to say, these two had a short relationship caused by her weird powers before she inevitably went back to being with Orion. Number 1, Nocturna. Just when you think it can't get any weirder, it most definitely can when we are talking Batman. Nocturna is a weird choice for not only Batman, but years later for Batwoman, Kate Kane, too. Especially considering that her and Batman had a thing. Although I guess it's a different continuity. Batwoman and Nocturna have an even more stranger and problematic relationship. But this time around, we're here to talk about Batman. These two together weren't that terrible, actually, and Natalia Knight, aka Nocturna, even became a sort of mother figure to Jason Todd. Or wait, does that make their relationship weirder? Because I think it does. In the end, she was stabbed to death, but managed to get into a hot air balloon and soar over Gotham just as she died and passed into a red storm. I guess so she could have like one last nice view before bleeding out. Don't worry though, Nocturna would return as an actual vampire as opposed to just a vampire-themed character, who would then move from Batman to Batwoman. Man, that sounds like a weird dating like game show that I would not want to be on. Or maybe I would want to be on it. I don't know, who could I date from Gotham? There's some pretty cool people. Selina, Bruce. Although I don't know, Batman has a lot of problems. I think I just want to be friends with him. I don't think I'd want to date him.
Coming in at number 10, we have Dr. Pamela Isley, aka Poison Ivy. While this plant-based villain is best known these days as being the healthiest relationship Harley Quinn has ever had, in many early Batman adventures, Ivy had her eye set on the very man trying to stop her schemes. And while there are a few storylines where this attraction was more than one-sided, for the most part, this relationship mostly consisted of Poison Ivy kissing Batman to mind control him and aid in her plant-based plans. And since that's not exactly the most romantic of circumstances, Poison Ivy is going to have to stay as an honorable mention on this list. Coming in at number 9, we have Dina Drake, aka Black Canary. While more closely associated with Green Arrow and the Birds of Prey in the mainstream DC universe, in the highly controversial Frank Miller book All-Star Batman and Robin, Batman and Black Canary let the sparks fly. Literally. After a fight against some henchmen on the docks of Gotham Harbor that sees both costume vigilantes backed into a corner, Batman lights the goons on fire with a Molotov cocktail. Then, with the docks still burning, Black Canary and Batman succumb to their urges and decide to get freaky on a burning pier. As I said, All-Star Batman and Robin is a bit controversial and weird, but hey, this moment's wild enough that Black Canary makes the list. Coming in at number 8, we have Kathy Kane, aka the very first Batwoman. Created by DC Comics in the 1950s to push back against any rumors of Batman and Robin comics secretly promoting a homosexual agenda, Batwoman was the very first romantic partner for Batman in the comics, even getting married on the cover of some notable issues. And while Batwoman has over the decades been fleshed out into becoming a character worthy of standing on her own, this original romance was basically just copy and pasting a lady version of Batman for him to marry so that everyone knew that Batman liked girls. Oh, comic books. Coming in at number 7, we have Silver St. Cloud. A wealthy socialite that became one of Bruce Wayne's primary love interests during the 1980s, Silver was initially only dating the playboy persona Batman puts up as a disguise, but was smart enough to eventually figure out that her boyfriend was actually the Caped Crusader. And while this revelation would eventually lead to the two breaking up, as Silver couldn't bear to see Bruce going off into dangerous situations every night, the two still had a close bond until her tragic death years later at the hands of a serial killer supervillain, because of course Batman's history wasn't dark and depressing enough. Coming in at number 6, we have Vicky Vale, a reporter for the Gotham Gazette. During an era of DC Comics in which Lois Lane was becoming increasingly popular, Batman was also given a journalist love interest under the name of Vicky Vale, but unfortunately wouldn't be as long-lived or unique as Lois and Clark's love. Nevertheless, Vicky is still a fan favorite in some circles, and notably appeared as Batman's main love interest in the original Tim Burton Batman movie. And hey, if Vicky's good enough for Hollywood, she's good enough for this list. Coming in at number 5, we have Diana Prince, aka the iconic Wonder Woman. That's right, despite the potential awkwardness of an office romance happening within the Justice League, there have been a few occasions where Wonder Woman and Batman have shown an attraction to each other as more than just friends in the main DC universe, including a moment where they almost kissed on the battlefield against the hordes of Gehenna, but ultimately decided against it as both of them were already in committed relationships at the time. Nevertheless, alternate universe takes like the animated Justice League show have continued to showcase a more flirty side of these two heroes' relationship, and even if they don't wind up together, Wonder Woman and Batman will always have each other's backs. Coming in at number 4, we have Talia al Ghul, the daughter of the Demon. The daughter of the immortal Batman villain Ra's al Ghul, Batman and Talia have found themselves in a forbidden romance over the years, attracted to one another despite the war Batman constantly fights against Ra's al Ghul's plans. To further complicate their relationship, Talia and Bruce actually have a son together in the form of Damian Wayne, who was created in secrecy through the couple's genetic material and was only revealed to his father at the age of 10. Talia and Bruce haven't been romantic together in many years, but considering Ra's al Ghul is still a dangerous villain, and they still have a son together who operates as the latest Robin, Talia and Bruce's past will definitely cross again in the future. Coming in at number 3, we have Rachel Dawes from the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. Portrayed by Katie Holmes in Batman Begins and Maggie Gyllenhaal in The Dark Knight, Rachel was this version of Batman's supposed true love, the person that he hoped to someday share a life with once he'd finished his mission as Batman. Unfortunately, this love story would end in tragedy during the events of The Dark Knight, as Rachel was murdered in an explosion by the Joker after tricking Batman into rescuing the wrong person, also causing the birth of the villain Two-Face. Rachel's death would haunt Bruce for the rest of the trilogy, showing just how tragic the Batman's love life could become. Coming in at number 2, we have Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman. Originally just a cat burglar in a slightly more elaborate costume, Catwoman terrorized Gotham City for a while as her heists grew more and more elaborate, and continued to be foiled by the Batman. Over the years, however, their flirty dynamic would expand as Selina began to become more of an anti-hero than an outright villain, to the point that Batman and Catwoman were even set to be married for a long time. And while comic book shenanigans might have complicated their relationship lately, Batman and Catwoman are still one of the best pairings in all of DC Comics. And finally, coming in at our top spot, we have Andrea Beaumont, aka the Phantasm. Originally debuting in the animated film Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, Andrea Beaumont was Bruce Wayne's first love, the girl he almost considered abandoning his mission as Batman for before the mission had even begun. Unfortunately for Bruce, Andrea and his relationship was forced to an end by the death of her father, causing Andrea to begin her descent into becoming the vengeful spirit known as the Phantasm. As a villain with an incredibly cool design and a very personal connection to Batman, the Phantasm might not have had as big an impact on the comics, but still remains, in my opinion, the best Batman love story ever told.